Space Station No. 0573. Inside the machine repair room, dozens of light mechas gleamed with metallic luster arrayed on both sides. Designer Du. How are things? I've already received word. Designer Huang from the 7th Fleet and Designer Li from the 12th Satellite Ring Star. They've completed their designs and are already installing the mechas. Don't misunderstand, I'm not criticizing you, but you know, every second earlier in building a mecha means an earlier advantage. Du Zifeng sat listlessly on the shoulder of a mecha staring at the endless starry sky above the ceiling. He paid no heed to Nie Longxiang's words drifting past his ear. He had something more important on his mind. Du Zifeng had transmigrated. The thing was, others who transmigrated either went to parallel dimensions or to past worlds armed with various information gaps, either raking in profits or mending regrets. But the place he came to was a future world. If it were only that, it would have been manageable. Du Zifeng had just discovered that he was right in the middle of a competition. The all-frequency mecha design competition. They were about to take the stage. Du Zifeng had absolutely no mental preparation. The Nie Longxiang floating back and forth before him was the partner mecha pilot assigned by the competition committee. He buzzed endlessly in his ear like a fly. Only now did Du Zifeng begin to digest the host's memories. The previous owner of the body was a young man, a mecha designer with outstanding talent. Perhaps he wanted to have a bloody sweat-drenched showdown with other designers, wrenches and hammers clashing. So he signed up for this all-frequency design competition. It was a regional design competition. A design team consisted of a designer and a randomly paired mecha pilot from the competition. Two complete strangers formed a brand new team. Then, under the rules set by the committee, they were to design a mecha for their partner. Finally, the mecha pilot would pilot the mecha to battle against other designers' mechas. They would fight each other. The final victor would be that season's champion of the all-frequency design competition. Designing a mecha. For Du Zifeng, that might have been difficult in his original world. But here Du Zifeng was very confident. Because in this world he possessed a weapon no one else had. A system. The edit simulator. Whenever he wanted, he could design mechas in his mind through the edit simulator. Not only mechas, but all kinds of mechanical designs. Most importantly, through the edit simulator, he could verify the feasibility of his designs. As long as the verification succeeded, he could build it in this world, provided the material strength was sufficient. A regional competition, for someone who owned the edit simulator, was no big deal. But Du Zifeng still looked listless. His mind was still digesting the body's memories. Of this unfamiliar world, a flood of details was being recalled piece by piece. Du Zifeng looked up at his partner. Nie Longxiang was still floating in the air, constantly watching Du Zifeng. Designer Du, look at the time. Nie Longxiang raised his hand and opened a light screen. It displayed the current time. Hello. Still there? Nie Longxiang from a distance kept waving at Du Zifeng. Du Zifeng stood up for the first time. Seeing that Du Zifeng finally reacted, Nie Longxiang hurriedly made a frog swimming motion, paddling strenuously to Du Zifeng's side. Designer Du, any ideas? Tell me quickly. Du Zifeng knew what Nie Longxiang meant. For a mecha pilot participating in a design competition, the sooner he got a new mecha, the sooner he could familiarize himself with it and bring out its characteristics. Of course, there were also mecha competitions specifically for mecha pilots. But those competitions often required pilots to provide their own mechas. The champions were basically monopolized by large corporations. The huge amount of resources poured into those mechas made it impossible for individual players to enter. Mecha events had many advantages, but there was one thing unfriendly to rookie pilots. Those events were mecha deathmatches. Mecha pilots had a high casualty rate in them. So compared to mecha competitions, the mecha design competition was more popular among ordinary pilots. After all, no matter how rich you are, you need to be alive to spend it. Mechas built by individuals naturally had various flaws, but an excellent mecha pilot could use his talent to circumvent the flaws of the mecha itself and fully demonstrate its original design philosophy. Du Zifeng stared hard at Nie Longxiang, wondering what level of mecha pilot his partner actually was. He had some memories of excellent mecha pilots. Clearly Nie Longxiang was not among them. The mecha pilot the competition assigned to him was probably some unknown low-level pilot. In a competition, there must be flowers, and naturally there must be green leaves. Obviously, Nie Longxiang was the green leaf arranged by the competition. A pure filler. Du Zifeng then thought of himself. After a few seconds, he understood one thing. He too was a filler. Du Zifeng grumbled inwardly about the committee, then thought of the edit simulator in his hand. Later, who was the green leaf and who was the flower remained to be seen. Countless outstanding mecha designs were waiting for him, beckoning him. With a trump card in hand, I own the world. I might as well take this opportunity to win the championship and make a name for myself. Once I'm famous, fame and fortune will follow. Whether for himself or to better stand in this world, winning the championship right now was the necessary path. Du Zifeng fully decided his future path and withdrew his thoughts. I've made up my mind. But first I need to know what level you're at. Du Zifeng spoke slowly. What designer Du looks down on me? Upon hearing this, anger appeared on Nie Longxiang's face. He was clearly unhappy with Du Zifeng's underestimation. I'm the one designing the mecha. I need to check the pilot's capabilities. I didn't know you before. Pilot Nya. If you don't show your ability, how can I design a suitable mecha for you? Du Zifeng said each word deliberately. Kid, I'll let this slide this time. If it's not sure who's the rookie. Nia Longxiang spat to the side of Du Zifeng. He pushed hard with both hands against the mecha under Du Zifeng's feet. With that push, Nia Longxiang's entire body floated down to a training pod below. He moved nimbly, opened it, and crawled inside. That attitude, there was resentment. Du Zifeng thought to himself. He looked at the training pod. He knew that for a mecha pilot, the most important thing was the mecha itself. And who created excellent mechas? The mecha designer, of course. For a designer, it wasn't difficult to annoy a pilot. He could easily make small moves on the mecha. But with that fiery temper, why was he so easy to convince? Du Zifeng found it strange. Glancing around, he saw several metal spheres glowing with blue light orbiting around him. Du Zifeng searched his memory and knew these were the competition's recorders. Also called live broadcast balls. The whole competition was broadcast live. Focusing on the cooperation between each designer and pilot, every moment was showcased in real time. No wonder. Du Zifeng had a slight understanding. Channel 7. Nia Longxiang's voice came through. Okay. Du Zifeng nodded. He opened Channel 7 and remotely connected to the training pod's feed. In the feed, the mecha Nia Longxiang chose to pilot was a standard Vanguard Type 1 mecha. This was a standard combat mecha. Mass-produced, highly versatile. While its performance wasn't top-notch, it was very friendly to rookie pilots. Easy to control, high agility, low maintenance. Seeing the mecha Nia Longxiang had chosen, Du Zifeng had to admit that the guy knew how to pick. He nodded slightly, a hint of approval in his eyes. Soon Du Zifeng was stunned by what he saw. Although Nia Longxiang entered the training pod with practiced ease, the moment he took control of the mecha. The Biaobing 1 mecha he piloted crashed to the ground with a thud. The mecha struggled to rise, then swayed left and right like a drunkard. Du Zifeng's mouth twitched at Nia Longxiang's performance. He recalled that the Biaobing 1 was a standard rookie mecha, yet Nia Longxiang piloted it as if it were a pile of scrap. Du Zifeng silently cursed the competition again. What a shoddy tournament, assigning him such a useless mecha pilot. A so-called pilot who couldn't even operate a mecha. Was this competition so poorly managed that it couldn't even provide a proper pilot? And Nia Longxiang was piloting a standard Biaobing 1. The Biaobing 1 was a model any fully trained pilot could master and operate. But on Channel 7, Nia Longxiang kept struggling, presenting all kinds of clumsy maneuvers. Du Zifeng covered his face with one hand, unable to bear watching. He was about to interrupt Nia Longxiang when he sensed something strange within himself. After each of Nia Longxiang's mistakes, Du Zifeng instantly understood the problem in his mind and thought of how to solve it himself. For instance, Nia Longxiang often couldn't stand steadily and moved with an abnormal gait. The issue lay with the mecha itself. The Biaobing 1 was a humanoid mecha. It required the pilot to respond accordingly to gravity distribution. Although the auxiliary control system could compensate, it could never match the pilot's intuitive feel for the mecha. Only through the pilot's own control could the mecha's posture be corrected faster and better. In life-or-death combat, posture was a crucial factor determining victory. Thus, what Nia Longxiang needed was not this standard Biaobing 1, but a mecha easier to handle, one that didn't require precise posture control. Du Zifeng suddenly thought of something: a sphere. That way Nia Longxiang wouldn't need to adjust his posture at all. Inside the spherical center, adjustments made no difference anyway. As for the cockpit, it only needed a single lever to control forward, backward, left, and right. At this thought, Du Zifeng couldn't help but snap his fingers. Perfect. A mecha so simple, even a fool could pilot it. If Nia Longxiang still couldn't, then Du Zifeng would lose his temper. His heart burned with excitement. The editing simulator even had this intuitive instinct, a true blessing from mecha designers. A powerful problem extractor with strong error correction ability. Bang! In Channel 7, Nia Longxiang collapsed straight to the ground once again. The scene brought Du Zifeng back to reality. This was worse than a rookie pilot. Who on earth had let him compete? Pilot Nia, you can stop now, Du Zifeng said. Haha, designer, you've seen my amazing potential, haven't you? Nia Longxiang's unabashed voice reached Du Zifeng's ears. This guy had no shame. Du Zifeng's face darkened. At least he had changed ability to potential. So he knew a little about himself after all. Du Zifeng glanced at the floating metal cameras around him and made no comment on Nia Longxiang's piloting skills. He had to maintain his image. He jumped down from the mecha's shoulder. The zero-gravity environment allowed him to float slowly toward his destination, the design terminal beneath the mecha's feet. Pilot Nia, I'm going to start designing the mecha. Don't disturb me unless necessary. Nia Longxiang, who had already exited the training pod, patted his chest in assurance. No problem, designer Du. They'll leave you to your work and check out the outside, maybe gather intelligence on the competitors. Watching Nia Longxiang leave, Du Zifeng sat down in front of the design terminal. What mecha should he build for him? The spherical mecha he had just thought of. Given that guy's stubborn temper, he'd probably object. But Nie Longxiang couldn't even walk in a mecha properly. If he built a humanoid mecha, Nie Longxiang would likely crash immediately. Seriously, what rubbish pilot had the competition assigned him? Du Zifeng cursed the competition again. Grumbling aside, he had to take this competition seriously. Mecha were everywhere here, and mecha designers were as common as cattle hair. Though Du Zifeng had a head full of brilliant ideas without resources to invest, he couldn't show them to the world. Besides, in this world, talented people who couldn't break out were everywhere. A designer without fame, no matter how excellent his work, would often be ignored until his value was proven. Like painters, many lived in poverty, all their lives their talents only discovered and respected after death. It was a case of the swift horse often exists, but the discerning bull does not. If he couldn't return, this world would be his new life. So using this platform with his beloved mecha, he would show this world what a true mecha designer was. Although he planned to start with this competition, Du Zifeng didn't intend to unveil his best ideas right away. With a pilot like Nie Longxiang, even if he brought out a good product, the pilot had to be able to operate it. The thought of Nie Longxiang made Du Zifeng's scalp tingle. Even in his predecessor's memory, he had never seen such a poor pilot. A good horse still needed a good saddle. But Nie Longxiang wasn't a good saddle. He wasn't even a saddle at all. At best, he was a loose rope hanging on the horse, always in danger of being shaken off. In this world, there were 4 mecha types: power type, endurance type, defense type, and speed type. Nie Longxiang, which of these suits your pathetic skill level? Then defense type it is, Du Zifeng murmured to himself. He thought of the last type, defense type. The spherical mecha belonged to this category. True to its name, it looked like an iron ball. By sacrificing appearance, it achieved absolute stability. There was no difficulty in control whatsoever. Its defensive capability was evenly distributed due to its spherical shape. On a flat surface, it could roll in any direction. But its offensive methods were limited, only ramming. The pilot inside controlled it with a single joystick and an attack pedal. To go left, the pilot pushed the joystick left. The joystick had force feedback. The harder you pushed, the faster the sphere moved. After the pilot successfully locked and aimed at an enemy mecha through the screen, a hard stomp on the attack pedal would unleash incredible speed and impact. The sphere would instantly boost its engine power, accelerating several times its original speed, and ram into the enemy with shocking force. Du Zifeng rubbed his chin, considering a problem. The impact force couldn't be mitigated much. The pilot inside would also feel a corresponding jolt. But if someone chose to be a pilot, weren't they supposed to handle a little shaking? To be safe, Du Zifeng decided to add some dampening mechanisms. However, recalling Nie Longxiang's earlier attitude toward him, Du Zifeng felt he needed to teach him a lesson. As for the mecha's name, it would be Iron Ball. After finalizing the mecha plan, he ran it through the editing simulator once more for a feasibility check. There were no design issues. After all, the Iron Ball had no design to speak of. However, there was a problem with the materials. The editing simulator altered the material ratio, optimizing it. Du Zifeng was pleasantly surprised. This editing simulator was incredibly powerful. It even had this function. Delighted, Du Zifeng began inputting the mecha prototype he had conceived into the design terminal. As for whether this iron ball would dominate, Du Zifeng wasn't too concerned. It was just a lump of iron. A winning would be enough. If it couldn't win, there was nothing he could do. A mecha pilot like Nie Longxiang was beyond his ability to carry. Du Zifeng took a moment to review the resumes of the participating mecha designers. There were no exceptionally outstanding designers. Most preferred humanoid mechas, which was understandable. The sleekness of humanoid mechas was undeniable. Looks were everything. It was natural for designers to follow public aesthetics. Du Zifeng realized that the iron ball he had just designed undoubtedly had many flaws. For instance, its attack methods were singular, making it easy to dodge kite, vulnerable to water, and helpless against aerial targets. But that was fine if this competition's theme was ground combat. Flying devices were prohibited. As long as it stayed on the ground, the iron ball would be as tough as an ancient tortoise. No matter how hard it was hit, as long as the material strength held. The opposing mecha couldn't damage the iron ball. The iron ball might miss 1,000 times, but if it landed just one hit, the opponent would be done for. He wondered what terrain the first match would present. Pondering this, Du Zifeng input the material ratio from the editing simulator into the design terminal. He pressed the final key. Parameters generating comparison complete. Feasibility verification in progress. Passed. Requesting corresponding construction materials. Passed. Materials are being assembled. Mecha construction progress. 1. Du Zifeng nodded with satisfaction as he watched the scrolling text on the design terminal. He decided to go to the restroom to relieve his full bladder. Grasping the corridor guide rail, Du Zifeng slid out of the repair room and headed to the restroom. Upon entering, he heard a loud voice coming from one of the stalls. It was Nie Longxiang. Uncle, you're so unreliable. I spent 50,000 star coins, and what kind of partner did you set me up with? All aloof and superior, always acting like I owe him a fortune. And he dares to look down on people. If it weren't for the livestream, I'd have given him a good slap. Just a beardless kid. Could he possibly be better than Designer Huang or Designer Li? Du Zifeng felt his blood boil. This bastard was a two-faced snake. Du Zifeng rolled up his sleeves intending to confront Nie Longxiang in the restroom. But after a few steps, he calmed down. This was how society worked. Before being recognized, one would naturally encounter only bad people. Because he had no value. Others wouldn't greet a worthless person with smiles. Thinking this, most of his anger dissipated. After quickly relieving himself, Du Zifeng turned and left. For Du Zifeng, it wasn't worth it. Beating Nie Longxiang wouldn't change anything. Instead, it would cost him this chance to compete. What mattered most now was proving his worth. Everything else was fleeting. As for Nie Longxiang, he was merely a short-sighted individual. In this starfield filled with mechas, mecha pilots were crucial, but they needed mechas to achieve their status. The two complemented each other inseparable. And for a mecha, the core of its core was naturally the mecha designer. Offending an unknown mecha designer lightly was the height of short-sightedness. In this world, mecha designers held absolute control over their mechas. Any matter concerning a mecha was decided solely by the designer. And offending such a designer lightly would basically spell the end of that pilot's career. Because once that designer grew into a top-tier mecha designer, all the humiliation he had endured would be avenged, 100-fold, 1,000-fold repaid to those who looked down on him. Thus a saying about mecha designers circulated in this world: in the presence of a mecha designer, maintaining humility may not propel you to the skies, but it will keep you from disaster. After all, mecha designers were generally petty. Du Zifeng grabbed the guide rail again and returned to the design terminal. Mecha construction progress. 98. Du Zifeng nodded. The technology here was impressive and the automation level was high. The difficulty of mecha construction never lay in building, but in design. Whether it was finalizing parameters or confirming material choices considering the key parts of the mecha, every aspect consumed vast amounts of the designer's effort. But for Du Zifeng, this was the easiest part. Because he had the editing simulator which allowed him to run through these critical checkpoints in his mind before construction, conducting feasibility verifications. Many mecha designers painstakingly design the mecha's appearance only to be stuck at the feasibility verification stage. The mecha they worked so hard on failed to pass the check. That huge sense of disappointment greatly dampened their enthusiasm. So it was normal for mecha designers to commonly harbor various negative emotions. Nie Longxiang then sauntered back into the repair room. He saw Du Zifeng already sitting leisurely on the mecha's shoulder, sipping a calming drink through a straw. Nie Longxiang quickly glanced at the design terminal and saw the large words displayed: Mecha construction successful, named Iron Ball. The text on the screen filled Nie Longxiang with joy. It's done, eh? I didn't expect designer Du to be so swift. The competition had another rule: those who failed to complete their mecha within the time limit would be eliminated. If Du Zifeng failed to finish the design, he would also be dragged down and eliminated. If eliminated, wouldn't his 50,000 star coins be wasted? That was absolutely unacceptable to Nie Longxiang. Now that there was a mecha, regardless of its performance, even if it was a piece of junk, he could at least make an appearance and showcase his top-tier piloting skills to the judges and audience. Haha, designer Du is truly accomplished at such a young age. Impressive. I think those designers Li and Huang are nothing but clowns compared to designer Du. Nie Longxiang flattered Du Zifeng with an unusually hearty laugh. Du Zifeng looked at his greasy smile and thought the man truly had two faces: a godly face and a ghostly one switching seamlessly. He was quite a talent. Seeing that his flattery had no effect on Du Zifeng, who remained as unmoved as a mountain, Nie Longxiang's smile stiffened. Muttering a few curses under his breath, Nie Longxiang stopped wasting his time and drifted over to the mecha training pod, intending to get accustomed to the newly built mecha as soon as possible. Nie Longxiang was curious to see what the mecha was like. If it was powerful enough to let him shine in the competition, that would be even better. Nie Longxiang eagerly opened and connected to the mecha. He was stunned. Nie Longxiang stared at the massive iron sphere before him. Designer Du, is this a mech? And why does the cockpit only have a single joystick and one pedal? Designer Du, have you made a mistake? Du Zifeng heard Nie Longxiang's dissatisfied shouts. It's a mech. To Nie Longxiang's barrage of questions, Du Zifeng replied with just 3 words. No, designer Du, I need an explanation. Nie Longxiang continued to yell. This is the explanation. Du Zifeng had no desire to elaborate further to Nie Longxiang. After all, if he were to explain clearly, could he just say, "Buddy, after watching your performance, your skill level only qualifies you to pilot this simple mech. If you weren't my partner, I'd have kicked you away long ago and told you to get lost." Du Zifeng could see on Channel 7 that Nie Longxiang's face was flushed with anger. But with the live broadcast ongoing, Nie Longxiang said nothing more and began to grip the Mechs joystick. The iron sphere started up smoothly within the training room. After spinning in place for a moment, it surged forward with exhilarating ease. Whether moving forward, backward, left, or right, it flowed like quicksilver. Du Zifeng observed for a few seconds, feeling that Nie Longxiang finally looked like a mech pilot. No longer the eyesore of a pilot he was at the start. After all, this Iron Ball model was the simplest mech he could conceive. If he couldn't even master this, Nie Longxiang might as well go home. After cruising around the entire arena for a few minutes, Nie Longxiang, having rammed through several obstacles at high speed, was no longer satisfied with the joystick's control. He began to stomp hard on the pedal beside his foot. The iron sphere instantly shot forward like an arrow from a bow, smashing into everything ahead at high speed. All obstacles before him were pulverized in an instant. Nie Longxiang's spirit soared. Casting aside his earlier gloom, he began to shout excitedly on Channel 7. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. This is what a mech should be. What were those previous pieces of junk? They couldn't even showcase my formidable skills. Du Zifeng hadn't expected Nie Longxiang to react like this. However, given Nie Longxiang's skill level, the Mechs he had handled before were indeed impossible for him to control. But this was just a training mode remotely connected to the Iron Ball model. The Iron Ball launched a ramming attack. Inside the training pod, Nie Longxiang wouldn't feel any force feedback. When he actually sat inside the Iron Ball, a huge surprise awaited him. Du Zifeng took a sip of his drink, continuing to watch the high-speed Iron Ball. Since Nie Longxiang had already accepted it, there was probably no need for a new design. Good, it saved him the trouble of further simplifying the controls. After an hour and a half of training, Nie Longxiang reluctantly left the pod. Designer Du, how about we try a real fight? Nie Longxiang floated excitedly over to Du Zifeng. Not so fast. Du Zifeng tossed out a virtual document. Sign this confidentiality agreement first. After all, for a mech designer, the mech itself is paramount, and the pilot who controls it has access to its core parameters. No matter how inept Nie Longxiang seemed, Du Zifeng would never skimp on necessary precautions. In this world, if someone knew a mech's construction parameters, anyone with suitable materials could mass-produce it. For a mech designer, that meant the fruits of their hard labor being stolen and plundered. This was something he absolutely could not tolerate. No matter who it was, Du Zifeng would not yield an inch on this issue. The memories of his own body had taught him this lesson deeply. Once a mech he had painstakingly built was stolen by a competition pilot due to his own carelessness. Not only did he lose ownership, but the competition organization also turned the tables on him. They falsely accused him of stealing the competition's mech design. He was disqualified, and they even auctioned off his mech parameters. All the value generated by that painstakingly crafted mech no longer belonged to Du Zifeng. This memory constantly reminded Du Zifeng. The value of a good mech was immeasurable, and because of that value, anyone who accessed his mech parameters had to sign a confidentiality contract with him. Even the event organizers. After all, with countless tournament scandals were frequently exposed. Designers having their mech parameters stolen, being forced to accept exploitative clauses, or having their mech copyrights forcibly shared by the events. Where there was profit, there was greed. No one wanted their hard work to go down the drain for such reasons. When Du Zifeng created a mech, his first step wasn't field testing. Instead, he registered the mech on the Galactic Network to prove ownership was solely his. Nie Longxiang looked at the confidentiality contract in his hand and frowned. Designer Du, this isn't very fair, is it? What's the most important thing in life? Trust. Nie Longxiang waved the contract, his voice laced with displeasure. Indeed, Du Zifeng nodded. So I don't trust you. Anger flared on Nie Longxiang's face as he rolled up his sleeves and floated before Du Zifeng. Du Zifeng glanced at the streaming orb beside him. Nie Longxiang immediately caught on, and his tone softened. Designer Du, we're all just trying to get some screen time and build a reputation on the stream. But aren't the terms of this confidentiality contract a bit off? You want that much? I only get a 10% share of the revenue generated by this mech. Although a mech designer held absolute ownership of their creation, a mech no one wanted to pilot was worthless. So to give their mech value, they needed a pilot who could fully utilize its characteristics. An exceptional pilot could even reveal traits the designer never imagined. Mechs enhanced by such value would soar to become the most sought-after in the galaxy. Typically, to boost a mech's value, designers were willing to share a portion of the profits with the pilot of the prototype. In a sense, the pilot and designer complemented each other. Every time a popular mech emerged, both the pilot and the designer benefited immensely from its explosive success. You can choose not to sign. Du Zifeng's tone remained unchanged. He would not budge on this. Nie Longxiang stiffened. As a mech pilot, he needed exposure and income. In this peaceful era, mechs had become a commodity sought after by many. The same applied to pilots. Even the top-tier ones might have been heroes in times of war, but now they were just workers struggling to get by. The more peaceful the times, the more people craved excitement. Deadly mech battles, like the gladiatorial arenas of ancient Rome, were staged for public spectacle and catharsis. Du Zifeng knew what Nie Longxiang was thinking and understood that he would choose to sign. If he didn't, Du Zifeng could request another mecha pilot from the competition committee. Designer Du, give me a bit more. Niao Longxiang continued to plead, hoping to gain exposure in the competition and also for the star coins he had invested. Either sign or we find someone else. Du Zifeng stood his ground. Niao Longxiang fell silent, his face dark as he took the confidentiality contract. He wrote his name. Du Zifeng watched the virtual contract float back into his hand, clenched his fist to store it, and simultaneously uploaded it to the heavenly network. With that done, the next step was practical training. To the testing ground. Du Zifeng and Niao Longxiang took the Interstellar elevator. They left the towering space station and descended to planet 0573 below. The software for constructing mechas was mostly concentrated in the space station. Thus, during the mecha design phase, participants primarily gathered at the space station. Once the mecha was successfully built, they needed to transfer to the testing ground on the planet. The physical mecha was there. When Niao Longxiang actually began piloting it, Du Zifeng covered his face again. This guy was truly terrible. Even with just 2 simple control methods, Niao Longxiang managed to create chaos, let alone the constant veering off course. The first time he stomped the charge pedal, the feedback force made him vomit. Was this really a mecha pilot who had passed the certification exam? Even the maintenance crew whispered among themselves. They had never seen a competitor pilot this inept. Others, after just a few days, became proficient. Whether attacking or defending, their movements were fluid. Not like the Iron Ball unit before them. Every practical session was plagued by mishaps. The Iron Ball either crashed wildly or flew off erratically. Yes, flew. The Iron Ball, originally without flight capabilities, was forced into the air by Niao Longxiang. With each stomp on the attack pedal, the mecha, moving in Brownian motion, ended up in places no one could predict. It wreaked havoc on the testing grounds facilities in various ways. Boom. A wall collapsed. At the break, dust still fell in a steady stream. This was yet another time the Iron Ball had demolished a structure. Bro. Big bro. Old bro. Are you really not here to tear down the place? The maintenance staff covered their faces in shock, watching the testing grounds devastation. A day later, the competition director's mouth twitched as he looked at the reconstruction budget submitted by the maintenance team. Which fool recruited this garbage pilot? Even if they're just filling a slot, you can't just bring in anyone. Is this person here to make up the numbers? This is clearly here to demolish the place. How many days of training, and a simple land mecha still ends up flying all over the sky? The director roared, venting his fury. Director, this is that. The assistant said weakly, making a money gesture with their hand. The director's expression froze as he sank back into his leather seat. He recalled the 50,000 star coins he had accepted. He waved dismissively at the assistant. Wait. The director called the assistant back. Don't bring me such trash again. Not even for money. On the other side, Du Zifeng watched as the maintenance staff surrounded Niao Longxiang once more. Niao Longxiang had already opened the mecha, vomiting violently out of the Iron Ball. The maintenance team leader, holding Niao Longxiang's head, cursed while pointing at the testing ground. The testing ground was in shambles. Everything in sight had been destroyed. Even the tall command tower bore a huge dent from the Iron Ball. It wasn't until late on the night before the official competition that Niao Longxiang finally gained full control of the mecha, piloting the Iron Ball smoothly. It was at that moment both the maintenance team leader and Du Zifeng could finally breathe easy. Although the all-frequency mecha design competition was broadcast live across the entire star domain, the audience had been small. As the main event approached, viewers from different time zones flooded the live stream. Perplexed, they saw Du Zifeng and his partner training late into the night. They were all surprised. Isn't it the middle of the night? Why are they still training? Newcomer just arrived, don't know. Waiting for an explanation. Waiting for a hero to appear. Probably final adjustments for tomorrow's main event. Other teams have gone dark. Only these two are still practicing. That means they're really hardworking. Indeed. One. Wonder what kind of mecha it is. I'm a bit excited. Haha, I want to see too, but they won't show it now. Just arrived, any matches soon. You're late, it's already over. The person above is lying, you, it hasn't started yet. It's tomorrow. Nothing to see today, better get some sleep. Speaking of which, with such hard training, their results should be good. Same feeling. Agreed. Same below. In the barrage, viewers chattered about Du Zifeng and Niao Longxiang. They clearly had a favorable impression of the duo's diligent training. The competition director, watching the praise-filled comments, couldn't help but twitch his mouth. How could this noob not work hard? If he didn't, he'd be done for tomorrow. A land mecha that was flying in the sky just an hour ago. Can you believe it? If someone had told me before that a land mecha could fly, I'd have thought they were bragging. And now, the noob pilot is as unpredictable as Brownian motion. The competition director waved at the staff in charge of the livestream, signaling them to wrap up. Tomorrow they had to give their all for the main event. The night passed without incident. The next day, the all-frequency mecha design competition officially began. Days earlier, the competition committee had placed advertisements on major network communication platforms, engaging in various promotions and teasers. Originally just a regional event, it coincided with the conclusion of the recent Mecha Duel tournament. With similar events either in preparation or not planned, some mecha enthusiasts, after watching the high-level duels, found their stirred excitement hard to quell. Restless, they began focusing on the only upcoming mecha-related event, the all-frequency mecha design competition. This took the competition by surprise. Before the event even started, overwhelming attention had pushed the competition to a terrifying level of popularity. A flood of viewers poured into the live stream, scanning the list of participants. Some well-known designers and pilots were recognized by the audience. For example, Huang Shichen from the 7th Fleet and Li Downing from the 12 Guardian Ring Star. Both had participated in higher-level mecha design competitions, though eliminated in the preliminaries. However, their unique mecha designs had left a strong impression on viewers. Most importantly, there were two beautiful women, the top mecha designer Chu Xia and the excellent pilot Qi Yingying. The addition of these two eye-catching beauties further stirred the audience's emotions, making this edition of the all-frequency mecha competition unprecedented in popularity. In the live stream's barrage, countless doghead emojis holding flowers scrolled by. Let's go. Start already. My blade is thirsting for action. What kind of competition is this? Someone in the know say something. Let me mess around first. Upstairs, behave yourself. It's a mecha design competition. The live stream began to continuously display the information of each contestant. Go Li design. Go Shasha. Go go. Crush the opponent. Yingying, I love you. When familiar names appeared, a flood of cheering comments emerged. What time does it start? It started. So many people, it wasn't this lively before. Everyone must be from the mecha duel competition. Yeah, after watching mecha duels, I feel so empty. Lag so laggy. Question, understand, encourage. Go. Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang were both astonished as they watched the live stream. A torrent of comments constantly refreshed. Witnessing the spectacle of millions of viewers online, all participants felt a sense of trepidation. The benefits brought by the event's popularity were self-evident. But a poor performance could also leave a very bad impression on the audience. However, this had no effect on Du Zifeng. With the editing simulator in hand, he had absolute confidence in his mecha. But Nie Longxiang beside him was not quite right. Although seated, Nie Longxiang's leg kept shaking. Amidst the eager anticipation of the masses, the all-frequency mecha design competition officially began. The organizing committee played a pre-recorded short video. Each designer expressed their thoughts on this competition before the camera. Everyone's speeches were largely similar, all about learning from each other and fostering friendship. When it was Du Zifeng's turn, he simply said, "For me, winning the championship is just the first step." As soon as the live feed showed this, a barrage of comments erupted. Countless likes flew by, followed closely by countless dislikes. Too arrogant. I believe it. 6,666. Who is this? So cool. So arrogant, haha. Finally, all contestants stood together, each striking a pose they thought was cool. Countless likes once again filled the screen. Haha. So awkward. Look at the third from the right. Is that a constipated expression? Summoning memes, haha. After the short video ended, all lights went out, plunging the main venue into darkness. Snap. The lights converged again, illuminating the entire venue where a person stood in the center, the host. The 63rd all-frequency design competition officially begins, the host shouted. Let's welcome our first group of contestants. The host turned his gaze to an entrance. The live feed followed suit. Mecha designer Du Zifeng and partner mecha pilot Nie Longxiang. Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang walked out in sync, entering the studio. Du Zifeng glanced at Nie Longxiang beside him. He noticed Nie Longxiang was completely stiff, walking with both arms and legs moving in unison. Du Zifeng's mouth twitched. Nie Longxiang was too nervous. As the two walked out, the host continuously introduced Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang to the audience. The arrogant one is out. Woohoo, so cool. Exciting, the first match is the arrogant guy. Don't just be arrogant with words. These two faces are unfamiliar. The designer guy is quite handsome. Upstairs, you call that handsome? Comments scrolled by, but their density had greatly decreased. After all, Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang were unknown to the audience. The host cleared his throat and announced another group of contestants. Until the final highlight appeared. Mecha designer Chu Xia. Mecha pilot Qi Yingying. A massive barrage of comments instantly filled the screen. Oh, it's Yingying. It's actually Yingying. Ah, and Xia is here too. Yingying, I love you. It's the real person. Yingying. Two great beauties. Xia, my wife. Yingying, my wife. Get lost, all of you, this is my wife. Who should I choose? So annoying. I want both. Du Zifeng looked at the two not far away. They should be his biggest obstacle in this competition. Based on his memory, Chu Xia was a brilliantly talented mecha designer. She was a master on the cusp of being a top-tier mecha designer. She had participated in the most elite design competitions. Although she didn't make it to the finals, her strength was unfathomable. Her partner was an outstanding mecha pilot. In the mecha duel competition that had just concluded, she achieved an excellent ranking of 41st. He didn't expect the organizing committee to have brought in a female mecha pilot as well. Truly a grand gesture. After formally introducing every contestant, the host began to explain the competition rules. The design competition was divided into a literary test and a martial test. The martial test was easy to understand. It was mecha dueling. The winner advanced. The literary test involved displaying all the designer's mechas before the audience. The audience would vote for the mecha they preferred. Because audience tastes varied, the literary test was quite controversial. But for the organizing committee, this was a good thing. They were not afraid of sparking controversy. The greater the controversy, the higher the ratings. They wished they could stir up various disputes every day, letting the audience tear into each other. Therefore, for mecha designers, with the existence of the literary test, the military's method of simply pursuing practicality was no longer applicable in the competition. Beyond practicality, the appearance of the mecha was becoming increasingly important. The first round randomly paired opponents for the martial test. The loser was eliminated. The winner directly advanced to the next stage. The literary test compared all mechas appearing in this round. Under the witness of the audience, a real-time voting competition took place. If one could enter the top 10 of the literary test rankings, even if they lost in the martial test, they could be revived for the second round based on their mecha's popularity. He and Ye Longxiang were the first group to start. Fortunately, their first-round opponents were not Chu Xia and Qi Yingying. They were unknown contestants like themselves. Although Du Zifeng had confidence in his mecha, he did not have confidence in Ye Longxiang. Du Zifeng also didn't know the outcome of this round. The literary test required no preparation, one just needed to display their mecha. Du Zifeng remained on the main stage while Ye Longxiang had already gone off stage to make final preparations for the mecha. The first match officially begins. Please look at the big screen. The host turned to display what was behind him. A 3D screen split the content in two, showcasing Du Zifeng's and the opponent designer's mechas. The familiar 3D projection of the iron ball emerged, listing its various parameters in detail. Du Zifeng turned his gaze to the opponent designer's mecha. It was a humanoid mecha. Similar to the standard Type 1 model, it was a light mecha. Its appearance was simple, sleek, and aesthetically pleasing. When the mechas of the two were displayed, a new wave of comments refreshed. Countless likes floated by. Iron ball. Iron ball. A large number of uniform comments appeared, all scrolling the word iron ball. For the audience, they had seen all kinds of humanoid mechas. Instead, a mecha like the iron ball was what left a deep impression. The host stepped forward first, seizing upon Du Zifeng. The two began to discuss the construction of mechas and the related journey of their creative philosophy, engaging in a lengthy exchange. Then the host did the same with Du Zifeng's opponent. After allowing the audience to fully grasp the stylistic characteristics of both designers, they were guided to sit to the side. Du Zifeng seized a gap to observe the opposing designer beside him. From the latter's exchange with the host, Du Zifeng understood that his adversary possessed considerable skill. He had participated in the auxiliary design of large-scale mechas. Though not a core member, being selected for such a role already testified to his competence. The host began to shout in the main venue. Then let us begin. Let the first round commence. Meanwhile, the written examination for the iron ball and the light mech was already underway simultaneously. On either side of the main screen, a numerical value was displayed, both growing at an astonishing speed. These increasing numbers represented the count of admirers. Each key milestone was highlighted in red: 50,000, 100,000, 500,000, 1 million, 5 million, and so forth. The growth rate of the iron ball clearly lagged behind that of the light mech. The light mech was the first to break through the initial milestone of 50,000. Evidently, the majority of the audience still favored an aesthetically pleasing mecha form. The live broadcast switched the scene. A desert came into view in a wide shot. Amidst the ruins, a mecha as tall as a skyscraper stood silently, its entire body poised for action. The scorching heat of the land warped the air. The scene shifted again. In a corner at the edge of the world, a gale swept past, revealing a pitch-black, perfectly round machine. This too was a colossal entity, the iron ball. Wow, wow, wow. This angle is so cool. Director. The director is amazing. Awesome. Somehow this is getting me hyped. Wild West. The audience's bullet comments exploded and countless likes flew across the screen. Thanks to this scene, the iron ball's count surged forward in an instant, reaching the 50,000 milestone. Yet it still lagged behind the light mech's growth rate. In the frame, the cables behind the light mech began to detach one by one, crashing heavily to the ground. A blue glow gradually illuminated its entire frame, and the humanoid mecha slowly assumed a charging posture. Boom. Amidst the blue-white flames erupting from its back, the light mech accelerated to 100 meters in just 0.2 seconds. In its high-speed charge, it resembled a charging knight. It held a sharp cavalry lance, a vast cloud of yellow sand billowing behind it. This sight caused the light mech's energy bar to surge, making it the first to reach the 100,000 milestone. Du Zifeng watched the light mech on the screen intently. Honestly, this mecha was quite impressive. Both its appearance and performance were above average, an excellent machine. Its frame was logically constructed, its light and agile form ensured a wide range of motion. Its superior acceleration endowed the mecha with formidable agility and responsiveness. Every aspect had been considered and balanced by the designer. However, its weakness was also apparent. Its small frame was too fragile and vulnerable to brute force collisions. Zifeng shook his head. Facing the opponent's aggressive mecha, the iron ball remained utterly still. The metal lance in the light mech's hand glowed with a blue fluorescence, its tip aimed directly at the iron ball. After two explosive sounds, the light mech discarded its final two thrusters. Shedding more weight, the high-speed mecha instantly achieved a second stage of acceleration. The scene zoomed in on the lance in the light mech's hand. The sharp tip of the lance was visibly turning red then white-hot. The audience watching the live broadcast held their breath in unison. The light mech's count skyrocketed again, breaking through 200,000 and charging straight toward 300,000. To the viewers, the iron ball seemed like a balloon about to be punctured by the light mech's lance. 50 meters. 20 meters. Boom. A thunderous sound erupted and the battlefield was shrouded in a vast cloud of desert sand obscuring everyone's vision. Oh, why can't we see at the crucial moment? I'm so anxious. This sand is so annoying. The result. Someone tell me the result. The live broadcast's bullet comments grew denser by the second. The sand gradually dissipated, driven away by the wind, revealing the battlefield. The original iron ball and light mech were nowhere to be seen. Instead, a spherical tunnel that cut through the entire ruin slowly emerged. The scene followed the hollow passage, its speed gradually increasing. Until at a certain moment it reached the end. The iron ball stood silently upon the earth. Beneath it lay the light mech, crushed into a heap of scrap metal. The iron ball wins. At that moment, a pair of wings suddenly appeared in the center of the live broadcast screen, framing the words, Iron Ball, within. Huh. This, a flood of single-character symbols poured out. The audience was all asking what had just happened. The live broadcast began a flashback. A clearer, slower motion replay was shown. Just as the tip of the light mech's lance was about to touch the iron ball, it moved. That massive round body struck like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. Even in slow motion, its terrifying speed was evident as it rammed into the light mech. The two high-speed mechas collided in an instant. The iron ball crushed that tiny toothpick of a lance without any hindrance, then crushed the small frame behind it. The rapidly spinning sphere pressed the light mech into the ground, sparks flying all the way as it rampaged. Finally, having expended its kinetic energy, the iron ball pinned the light mech against a wall. The iron ball's count exploded, instantly surging past 200,000, charging toward 300,000, and then heading for 400,000. It surpassed the light mech in a flash. Roar, roar, roar. Such terrifying power. An ugly mecha winning, even more ugly. Who's the idiot blabbering here? Look at that terrifying defense. You know, according to the light mech specs, that lance was made of an extremely hard alloy. Exactly. If you think it's ugly, go ahead and build one yourself. I'm starting to get curious about what material the iron ball is made of. So amazing. Awesome. After their initial shock, the audience began to focus more on the iron ball's parameters. But all of the iron ball's parameters were rather mediocre, even low. Except for two peculiar ones. Instant acceleration 0.01 seconds per 100 meters. Overall mecha strength unrecorded. A new material synthesized from various special materials. Other designers who had not yet competed also began checking the iron ball's parameters immediately. For the average viewer, this was something to glance over and forget. But for knowledgeable designers, mecha parameters were extremely valuable reference data. Some masters could even reverse engineer the parameters of the construction materials from the specs. No one had expected the iron ball to possess such high strength and defensive power. Spherical mechas had been designed by designers long ago, but they had never shown any remarkable qualities. Moreover, in actual combat, the major flaws of spherical mechas quickly became apparent. The outer shell lacked sufficient strength, making them completely unviable for combat. In this world, there were materials hard enough, but hardness also meant they were difficult to forge into shape. Conversely, materials that were easy to shape lacked sufficient strength. Now this iron ball seemed to have none of these problems. The mecha designers exchanged glances, staring at each other in bewilderment. When the iron ball mecha appeared, all the designers looked upon it with disfavor. Spherical mechas had been attempted before. Yet without exception, they had all ended in failure. But what was this iron ball? When had they ever seen a spherical mecha with such formidable strength? The designers' reactions varied. Some were filled with admiration, others with disdain. There were those who were curious, those who were awestruck, and those who remained contemptuous. The contempt stemmed from the belief that to these designers a spherical mecha could never be considered a true mecha compared to traditional humanoid ones. To design a simple sphere, install a control system, and rely on material strength to defeat ordinary mechas, and then stubbornly call this sphere a mecha. To them, this was utterly unacceptable. A mecha like the iron ball had no design aesthetic whatsoever. It could not be called a mecha. They felt that the iron ball embodied none of the design capabilities a mecha designer should showcase. Du Zifeng turned his gaze to the waiting area, sensing the contemptuous looks from some designers. Du Zifeng understood their thoughts all too well. The iron ball was not truly a mecha. If not for the editing simulator recalibrating the material parameters, he would not have been able to create the iron ball. It was a mecha devoid of any personal design elements, an industrial product anyone could manufacture once they understood the materials. In the eyes of those designers who regarded mechas as art, the iron ball was not a mecha. It was nothing. Du Zifeng knew their thoughts, but he had no choice. After all, his partner was Nie Longxiang, a mecha pilot who could barely handle even the standard Model 1. Du Zifeng could certainly create a beautiful and powerful mecha. But what could he do with such a novice pilot? He couldn't even pilot standard mechas, let alone the more complex ones. Du Zifeng had no intention of being eliminated alongside Nie Longxiang. So despite the criticism and controversy, he pushed forward the iron ball. As long as he could win, Du Zifeng feared no criticism. The numbers still rising on the large screen only strengthened his resolve. In the moment it crushed the light mecha, the iron ball had already garnered 4 votes from the audience, while the light mecha remained at around 3,100 votes. The gap between them was nearly 1,000 votes. All those designers who insisted on orthodox mecha aesthetics were dumbfounded. They never imagined that a mecha with no design elements could receive such a high number of votes. One after another, their worldviews as mecha designers seemed to suffer a massive shock, their expressions turning dejected. Du Zifeng looked at the vote count for the iron ball, knowing he had advanced to the next round. In both the theoretical and practical tests, the iron ball had perfectly achieved its set goals. Du Zifeng's tension eased. As for those mecha designers rolling their eyes at him, he couldn't care less. In this world, the victor ultimately takes all. Once he made a name for himself, and paired with a capable mecha pilot, soaring to great heights would be simple. Nie Longxiang returned to the main arena via the space elevator, his face brimming with excitement. He already knew the results. In both the theoretical and practical tests, he had crushed his opponent. After all, Nie Longxiang knew his own skill level. Just to get in and show his face to the audience had cost him 5,000 star coins. When he had been bribing his way in, Nie Longxiang had once fantasized about encountering a brilliant designer who would carry him to victory. But upon seeing Du Zifeng, that fantasy shattered. Just as Du Zifeng didn't trust Nie Longxiang didn't trust Du Zifeng either. This kid looked so young. What decent mecha could he possibly build? As the saying goes, life is full of unexpected ups and downs. Who would have thought that the iron ball would possess such power? In every aspect, it had easily overwhelmed the light mecha. At that moment, the host returned to the center of the main arena to announce the next round of matches. One round after another concluded quickly. After all, a mecha's appearance was closely tied to its strength. No matter how good-looking it was, if it couldn't win, it was meaningless. Like a silver spearhead that looks sharp but is useless. Mecha enthusiasts were particularly sensitive to this. As long as it could win, even if it was a ball, they would find the mecha cool. With the final match concluded, all the mecha designers who had successfully advanced to the next round stood on the main arena. Now I will announce the top 10 rankings for this round's mecha theory test, the host said, returning to the center of the main arena. The announcement of the theory test results followed. 10th place, Fu Xinrui Gu Tongxuan with 4,600 votes. 4th place, Li Downing Shunzhe with 5,200 votes. 3rd place, Huang Shichen Tang Weigong with 5,500 votes. 2nd place, Chu Shachi Yingying with 6,100 votes. 1st place, Du Zifeng Nie Longxiang with 6,200 votes. When everyone saw the first place combination announced by the host, they couldn't help but murmur among themselves. The iron ball's numbers are too outrageous. A broken iron ball with no design elements got that many votes. Exactly, a chorus of mecha pilots and designers echoed. Looks like Chu Sha and Qi Yingying aren't taking this well. The crowd turned their gaze toward the two beautiful women. Already aware of the results, they looked regretful, clearly pained by the outcome. Their Blossom Mecha had narrowly lost to the iron ball. Alas, there's no helping it. This is the result. Actually, the Blossom Mecha was very strong. Both in design and performance, it was flawless. It just met a tough opponent that couldn't be taken down in one blow like the iron ball. Yet the audience must have water in their brains to vote the iron ball first. But the iron ball debuted today, and it won too cleanly. I wonder what materials the iron ball is made of. If applied to our mecha's performance, would surely improve significantly. Everyone spoke in turn, nodding in agreement. On the live stream, as soon as the results were announced, a flood of emoticons scrolled by. Countless iron ball messages followed. After scrolling for tens of seconds, many viewers began commenting. This ball got first place. What, you got a problem? The iron ball has no design elements. I can't accept this. Sha Ying, how did you lose to the iron ball? I think the iron ball is great. Indeed, just look at that shocking opening strike. Which of the later mechas could achieve that? Sha-shaing my wives. Haha, exactly that scene I never get tired of. Though many questioned the iron ball, finding it devoid of design sensibility, a greater multitude was captivated by this refreshingly novel mecha. The iron ball. It's so round and intriguing. It's both beautiful and powerful indeed. After all these years, a non-humanoid mecha has finally appeared. Does anyone else find this iron ball adorably clumsy yet endearing? 1. For most casual onlookers. Considering the performance in the first round alone, the iron ball undoubtedly performed best. Its appearance and prowess garnered considerable goodwill from the audience. The audience, in truth, had but two simple demands for an unfamiliar mecha: power and aesthetics. In these aspects, power was the foundation. Mere beauty held no significance. Only when coupled with assured strength did aesthetics become meaningful. Moreover, the iron ball's opening strike successfully secured the votes of most spectators. As for the blossom designed by Chu Sha and Shi Yingying, it was not weak and was itself quite elegant. Yet compared to the iron ball, the blossom remained a nearly tiresome humanoid mecha, regardless of its striking appearance. For audiences wearied by countless humanoid designs, aesthetic fatigue had set in. The iron ball was different. Its sudden emergence as a geometric mecha of a completely distinct style still captivated and delighted the viewers. As the popularity champion of the first round, Du Zifeng and Nielongxiang were re-invited to the main venue by the host. The host was privy to the inside story, knowing these two were originally contestants meant to fill the roster. Yet the host possessed good composure. Though inwardly believing they would not go far, they had earned the audience's approval. The host, adhering to convention, invited them up. After warming up with some trivial remarks, the host first turned to Du Zifeng. Designer Du, how did you conceive and design a mecha like the iron ball? What considerations did you have at the start of its design? Du Zifeng was not intimidated. After all, this was about a mecha he had created and loved. Yet Du Zifeng did not elaborate excessively. He merely highlighted a few key points explaining the design philosophy of the iron ball. The atmosphere was harmonious. Just then the host shifted the conversation. Suddenly addressing the designers seated on the other side of the main venue, he asked, "Designer Chu, what are your thoughts on the iron ball?" Chu Sha was startled, completely at a loss as to why the host had turned to her, bringing the heat to her side. Chu Sha initially did not wish to answer, but she noticed the cameras had swiveled, focusing on her. Chu Sha sighed and rose from the designer's seats. "In my opinion, the iron ball lacks design." Chu Sha's words caused an uproar in the venue. Was she being so direct? Was she about to outright dismiss Du Zifeng? Of course, I am not negating designer Du. The iron ball is undeniably excellent. However, its appearance is a mere geometric form. As everyone knows, regardless of the type of mecha, design begins with basic geometric shapes, which are then refined. The iron ball lacks that subsequent step. It was finalized by designer Du at the very first stage. Relying on his exceptional mastery of materials science, he successfully presented a path long abandoned. Geometric mecha. From my humble knowledge, I cannot say whether this is good or bad, but it seems our current mecha system is increasingly constrained by the humanoid form. Designer Du's iron ball has enlightened me. It made me realize that mecha should not have only one path. Designer Du's iron ball is truly excellent. Honestly, I am deeply reluctant to lose to such a designless mecha, but losing to designer Du, I accept it. Even I could not achieve the strength demonstrated by the iron ball. Designer Du is truly remarkable. Of course, in the subsequent matches I will still give my all. I strive to win this all-frequency design competition and repay all who support me. As Chu Sha spoke, she frequently glanced at Du Zifeng. Finally, she bowed deeply to the camera, concluding her evaluation of Du Zifeng and the iron ball. Applause filled the venue. The livestream bullet comments crazily scrolled with the word wife. Countless likes flooded in. "Shasha, you are my eternal goddess. I love you, wife Shasha." "Well said, wife Shasha. Don't stop me, let me gaze upon Shasha one more time." Du Zifeng was also applauding Chu Sha. He truly hadn't expected such an evaluation from her. At this moment, after finishing his applause, the host shifted his target to Huang Shichen, the designer Nielongxiang had incessantly mentioned from the start. "Designer Huang, what is your view on the iron ball?" The host continued to stoke the flames. "I greatly admire designer Chu's philosophy, but I disagree with some of Chu Sha's points regarding Du Zifeng. I believe that someone like Du Zifeng appearing in this competition is in itself an insult to the sacred profession of mecha design. No design, no aesthetic, no substance. Such a mecha is unworthy of being called a mecha. It merely relies on superior material parameters to achieve a brute force effect. How can such a thing gain audience approval? Forgive me, but I simply cannot agree." Huang Zifeng's words drew loud cheers and agreement from many mecha designers. Some more radical ones even stood up, vehemently denouncing Du Zifeng as a heretic. Du Zifeng watched the impassioned designers speechlessly. Of course, he knew this mecha was devoid of design, but he had no choice. Stuck with a rookie mecha pilot like Nielongxiang, Du Zifeng had to make do. Those designers one after another criticizing him. They spoke so easily, oh why not swap mecha pilots? Du Zifeng kept complaining inwardly, though his expression remained unchanged. He watched and waited. Du Zifeng then looked back at the host. He had figured it out, asking for opinions one after another. Was this intentional provocation? Who was he belittling? The host also felt Du Zifeng's displeased gaze yet continued undeterred. Suddenly he shifted the topic to Nie Longxiang beside him. Pilot Nie, you are the pilot of the Iron Ball. So many designers are criticizing its design. As its actual pilot, how do you view the Iron Ball? Du Zifeng thought that Nie Longxiang, having just won with the Iron Ball, would not say anything outrageous about it. Nie Longxiang spoke boisterously to the camera. Host, you know, I am very skilled. But my mecha designer only designs such foolproof mecha. They completely fail to unleash my true potential. As for the Iron Ball, I think the designers are right. The Iron Ball truly does not deserve to be called a mecha. Du Zifeng listened, his anger flaring up. He clenched his teeth, glaring at Nie Longxiang beside him. The other's reckless words infuriated him beyond measure. Anyone could call the Iron Ball garbage, but not you. Du Zifeng could hardly resist the urge to kick Nie Longxiang. Who's really the novice here? Don't you have a clue? If it weren't for your embarrassingly poor piloting, would I have had to build such a basic mech? Nie Longxiang, can you show some decency? Yet facing millions of livestream viewers, Du Zifeng suppressed his fury. Thankfully, in this all-channel mech tournament, after each round of advancement pilots and designers would be rematched. For Du Zifeng at this moment, this was nothing short of a tremendous blessing. He could finally part ways with this ungrateful wretch. The fact that Iron Ball advanced this round is largely due to my skill. If any designers get paired with me next time, it'll show you all what a truly exceptional pilot looks like. Nie Longxiang continued to shamelessly boast of his own achievements before the camera. Nie Longxiang's words, however, drew a silent, disapproving response from the designers. They might not have liked the Iron Ball, but they still possessed basic professional integrity. How could this pilot disparage the Iron Ball so completely? Its power was evident to all. No matter how much they criticized its lack of design aesthetic, they couldn't deny one fact. The Iron Ball was an exceptionally outstanding mech. Meanwhile, the livestream chat exploded once more. Countless comments reading absurd flooded the screen, dense and unending. This pilot sure has some nerve, biting the hand that feeds him. What does that mean? Ungrateful. The Iron Ball is amazing, okay? That cute Iron Ball, this pilot doesn't deserve it. The host felt awkward. As Nie Longxiang continued his impassioned tirade, she quickly interjected. Thank you for your insights, Pilot Nie. She had merely intended to stir up some discussion, to boost the show's popularity. It was standard practice for any host. But Nie Longxiang was about to tear the whole show down. After all, Du Zifeng had ranked first in the written exam. Where was the respect? Designer Du, is there anything you'd like to add about the Iron Ball? The host kept winking at Du Zifeng. She was trying to appease Du Zifeng, hoping he wouldn't lose his temper live on air. If it turned into a physical brawl, it wouldn't be a topic for hype. It would be a live broadcast disaster. If things got serious, it would be bad for everyone. The all-channel tournament committee would never tolerate such a thing. The host's attempts at appeasement, Du Zifeng completely ignored them. He only wanted to retaliate now, to strike back at the shameless scoundrel beside him. I've heard the criticisms from other designers, and I can understand them. But what I cannot understand is the pilot of the Iron Ball. Du Zifeng's gaze was fixed on Nie Longxiang beside him. Nie Longxiang, how dare you criticize the Iron Ball? Do you know why the cockpit of my Iron Ball only has one control stick and an accelerator pedal? It's because of your outstanding ing skills. All the designers were stunned. They hadn't expected the Iron Ball's cockpit to be in such a state. If what Du Zifeng said was true, then the Iron Ball was indeed a no-threshold mech. The designers were dumbfounded. The pilots were stunned too, and the audience was even more astonished. Nie Longxiang's face drastically changed upon hearing this. You're slandering me. It's clear you can only design such garbage mechs. How dare you turn the blame onto the pilot? Du Zifeng sneered coldly. Nie Longxiang, oh Nie Longxiang. Do you dare pilot a standard Type 1 right here, right now? Show everyone your incredible piloting skills. Du Zifeng pointed at the ground and shouted at Nie Longxiang. He no longer bothered to hide his anger. Since Nie Longxiang was so critical and dismissive of his Iron Ball, he didn't need to save face for him either. Du Zifeng's words turned everyone's attention to Nie Longxiang. The designers all knew the standard Type 1. An excellent training mech. The pilots knew it even better. It was their graduation mech. Countless mechs of all types existed in this star domain. But the standard Type 1 stood as a benchmark. It had trained generation after generation of outstanding pilots. Nie Longxiang, feeling the weight of everyone's gaze, felt a surge of anger and almost agreed. But he knew his own limits. He opened his mouth several times, but never gave his consent. Cut it. Cut it now. We can't keep going, time is up. The host heard the tournament director's voice in her earpiece. After all, the all-channel mech design tournament was broadcast across all channels. But the time allocated for the all-channel broadcast was limited. The conflict couldn't be allowed to continue indefinitely. not even if it was popular. The host quickly stepped in to separate the two heated individuals, offering each a way out. Simultaneously, she signaled the director to cut to a commercial. As the live stream switched to an ad, the screen was flooded with comments asking cut, furiously criticizing the director's absurd decision. They had been so engrossed. 5 minutes later, the screen returned to the main arena. The host stood alone at the center. Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang had already returned to their seats in the observation area. Both had grim expressions. The live stream chat was still buzzing with related topics. Boring, I want to see blood. Fight, fight. Haha, it's getting more exciting. Let Nie Longxiang pilot a standard Type 1. I want to see it. Me too, I want to know who the real novice is. No need to guess, it's definitely Du Zifeng. Nonsense. I think it's Nie Longxiang. Didn't you watch the match? He instantly destroyed a light mech. That's a novice's move. Didn't designer Du say the iron ball was a no-threshold mech? Correction, he didn't say no-threshold, he said it was exceptionally easy to control. I don't care, I want to see the standard Type 1, I'll let it play. Is there a difference? A huge one, you idiot. Despite the torrent of impassioned comments, the host remained unmoved and proceeded to the next segment of the event, the rematching of mech designers and pilots. Nie Longxiang, if you get paired with me again, I'll show you what cruelty really means, Du Zifeng said to Nie Longxiang beside him. He didn't lower his voice, causing others in the observation area to turn and look. You all better pray. If you get stuck with Nie Longxiang, he'll pray for you. Du Zifeng wore a cold sneer. All the designers involuntarily glanced at Nie Longxiang, their hearts tightening. Compared to the pilot Nie Longxiang's words, they were more inclined to believe the designer Du Zifeng. After all, the iron ball was genuinely powerful. Facing the designer's skeptical looks, Nie Longxiang clenched and unclenched his fists repeatedly. His already dark complexion turned almost black. His fury towards Du Zifeng was palpable. In a mech design tournament, the pilot's importance was self-evident. No designer wanted their hard work to be ruined. If Nie Longxiang was truly as terrible as Du Zifeng claimed, then they'd rather let someone else suffer that burden. All the designers silently prayed in their hearts. The host had already turned his hand behind him, guiding the audience to fix their gaze upon the silver screen. The matching of mecha designers with mecha pilots was about to commence once more. The large screen began to display 32 faces arranged in order according to the rankings from the first round of written examinations. They were divided into 2 rows, with the upper row belonging to the mecha designers. The lower row belonged to the mecha pilots. With a single press of a button from the host, the faces of the mecha pilots were locked in place. Simultaneously, the images of the pilots below began to overlap and cycle rapidly. Now I invite the designers to collectively choose a moment and call out stop, the host announced to the observation deck. Du Zifeng exchanged glances with the other designers, a silent uncertainty hanging between them. A long, tense stalemate ensued, with no one daring to speak. Finally, Li Downing rose to his feet. Everyone, this impasse serves no purpose. Allow me to take the lead. On the count of 3, let us all shout stop together. How does that sound? Du Zifeng found no fault with the proposal, nodding in agreement along with the other designers. 3, 2, 1. The designers shouted in unison. Stop. The ceaselessly rotating faces on the large screen came to a halt. At the sound of their command, the images began to reveal themselves sequentially from the end. Every designer watched the silver screen with bated breath, their eyes fixed on the faces being displayed. One by one, the faces of the mecha pilots emerged in the lower row. The pairing process commenced once more. Du Zifeng eagerly anticipated the early appearance of Nie Longxiang's face. Yet as the faces of the mecha pilots continued to emerge, Nie Longxiang remained conspicuously absent. Soon the pilots began to match with the final 10 mecha designers. The designers who had already been matched with their pilots wore expressions of profound relief, for Nie Longxiang had not appeared beneath their names. Now the 10 most formidable mecha designers from the first round remained without their pilots. Fu Xinrui, who had placed 10th in the written exam, rose nervously from his seat. Only when he saw his matched pilot Qi Yingying did Fu Xinrui slump back into his chair, a wave of relief washing over him. A hint of joy even flickered across his face, for this pairing was indeed fortunate. One after another, the faces of the mecha pilots materialized. Yet Du Zifeng still could not find that familiar visage. Second place, Ochusha, matched with the mecha pilot Tang Weigang. Witnessing this, Du Zifeng could not help but cover his face with his hands. Damn it! His pilot was still Nie Longxiang. Du Zifeng's gesture of despair became the focal point for the director, who zoomed in for repeated close-ups. Every detail of his utterly defeated expression was laid bare for all to see. The live streaming comments exploded instantly. A torrent of fate and destiny flooded the screen. Ha ha ha, this is pure gold. I can't wait for the next round, ha ha ha. Du Zifeng designed well. You've got this, ha ha ha. The director is a god among men. The committee is disgusting. Hurry up and start. Hurry. Ha ha ha, fate is truly a wondrous, ineffable thing. Du Zifeng turned his head to look at Nie Longxiang. Nie Longxiang was staring back at him. Their gazes clashed with fierce intensity. Yet in each other's eyes they could both perceive the same profound frustration. Damn the committee. Du Zifeng instantly knew who was behind this machination. At this moment, the hottest topic of the competition had become the personal grudge match between him and Ye Longxiang. A designer and a pilot who despise each other yet forced to collaborate again. What kind of magical collision will this produce? All of this and more on the full-frequency mecha design competition. Follow the full-frequency mecha design competition for the latest updates. Du Zifeng could already imagine how tonight's competition report would frame this event. A fierce wave of resentment surged within Du Zifeng. Ye Longxiang was his partner once again, yet he had absolutely no desire to design a mecha for such a pilot. But this was intrinsically linked to his advancement to the next round. He could not afford even a moment's carelessness. Was he truly going to design another foolproof mecha for Ye Longxiang? But if he did, wouldn't that completely validate the other designer's claims that he could only create mechas devoid of any artistic merit? Just then the host once again directed the audience's attention to the large screen. The restrictions for the next round were about to be announced. The first round had been a land battle. Du Zifeng wondered what the second round would entail, turning his gaze toward the screen. Countless characters flashed randomly across the screen. This time I invite the mecha pilots to choose a moment and call out stop, the host announced to the pilots on the observation deck. Stop. The pilots quickly reached a consensus and shouted in unison. Blade combat. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd as everyone saw the term. Blade combat was the most brutal form of mecha warfare. Just as the term land battle imposed the restriction of remaining grounded, blade combat carried its own set of limitations. It forbade all forms of attack except for cold weapons. No light energy weapons, no sonic weapons, no kinetic weapons. Only a single cold weapon to cut down the enemy. Such a mecha deathmatch was brutal, yet it was also the most captivating spectacle. The mecha designers gasped because of the immense, terrifying difficulty. First, the mecha's material strength had to be up to standard. Second, the weapon had to be flawless. Third, the balance had to be impeccable. Fourth, the transmission system had to be perfect. Fifth, the mecha pilot had to be exceptional. The pilots gasped because of the very nature of a mecha deathmatch. Piloting the machine in such a fight could genuinely lead to death. With even the slightest misstep in this brutal contest, serious casualties could occur. The announcement of blade combat flooded the comments. Holy moly, blade combat. Blood will flow. How thrilling. Is this just a design competition, or are they staging a mecha death match? This is getting more and more interesting. I want to watch. When does the next round start? Someone ping me. 7 days from now. Haha, I want to see the pilots' faces. Yet as soon as this theme was announced, many pilots felt the urge to withdraw from the competition. They had come to showcase their talents, not to die. Such a mecha blade duel was typically only seen in top-tier mecha tournaments. None had expected it to appear in a mecha design competition. I want to withdraw. A pilot suddenly stood up and shouted loudly. Me too. Me too. Emboldened by the first, more pilots rose to their feet in protest. Everyone please calm down. This blade combat will be conducted via virtual pods with remote connections to the mechas. Your lives are safe. Your lives are safe. The host hurriedly explained to the agitated pilots. After several rounds of reassurance, the pilots were finally persuaded to sit back down. Du Zifeng watched as the host successfully quelled the unrest. The audience in the comments could only express their regret and disappointment. After all, this was a design competition. No pilot would have anticipated a deathmatch segment. That was something reserved for top-tier mechas and elite tournaments. Du Zifeng had no particular objection to this theme. With his editor simulator at his disposal, he could design any mecha imaginable. The only problem was that his pilot was once again Ye Longxiang. Du Zifeng loathed this matching result. The first round of the full-frequency mecha design competition drew to a close with the host's goodnight wishes. The first round concluded. Du Zifeng and Ye Longxiang both returned to the initial mech repair room with grim expressions. As soon as they entered, the hovering broadcast spheres swarmed around them again. The spheres captured Du Zifeng and Ye Longxiang from every angle without any blind spots. Du Zifeng felt utterly helpless. During the intermission, such live streaming was an integral part of the full-frequency mech design competition. Some viewers delighted in this, preferring to keep a constant eye on their favored designers. Especially this time. Du Zifeng cast a glance at Ye Longxiang. Ye Longxiang was already floating in the air, sprawled out like a starfish, adopting an air of complete indifference. Du Zifeng's livestream channel was no longer the desolate void it had been before the competition commenced. A massive influx of viewers flooded into the livestream channel, intensely interested in the enmity between the two. As soon as the audience saw them enter the repair room, a torrent of comments flooded the screen. Haha, front row. Leaving a paw print here. La la la, such a lovely pair of bickering rivals. Fight, fight. Time to show your personal charm. Boring, why aren't they scrapping? Yeah, I want to see bloodshed. Many viewers anticipated an even more explosive scene. Although Nie Longxiang was floating, he remained in a state of seething anger. Why did Du Zifeng have to keep harping on his piloting skills? He even called him a noob right in the middle of the competition. Didn't Du Zifeng realize who helped him overcome a formidable foe? Wasn't it all thanks to him, the mech pilot? Besides, the Iron Ball mech was indeed a piece of junk, just as the other designers had said. His thoughts raced, and he felt a strong urge to charge over and beat Du Zifeng to a pulp. But seeing the hovering broadcast spheres, Nie Longxiang quashed that notion. He was still worried about the next round. What if Du Zifeng dragged him into a mutual destruction? He had spent a whopping 50,000 star coins. His career as a mech pilot, which had just begun to show promise, would come to an abrupt end. No way. With that thought, Nie Longxiang immediately sprang into action. Adopting his signature frog-like swimming stroke, he paddled over to Du Zifeng. As soon as the livestream audience saw his posture, the barrage of comments intensified. I'm dying of laughter. Ha ha ha. He looks just like a fat frog, ha ha ha. Help, this Nie Longxiang is too hilarious. Nie Longxiang quickly closed in on Du Zifeng. However, Du Zifeng ignored him entirely, floating directly to the mech design terminal. Seeing Du Zifeng head for the design terminal, Nie Longxiang felt a wave of relief. After all, Nie Longxiang knew that Du Zifeng looked down on him. As long as they could proceed to the next round, he was willing to shamelessly keep sucking up to Du Zifeng. He continued to float idly in the air, just as before. Du Zifeng sat before the mech design terminal. To be honest, he had considered withdrawing from the competition and taking Nie Longxiang down with him. But doing so would be utterly pointless. It would only prolong his path to prominence. Obsessing over certain matters would ultimately harm only oneself. Du Zifeng decided to seriously design a mech specializing in blade combat. He would prioritize the mech's characteristics over the pilot's needs. What form should a blade combat mech take? Du Zifeng pondered in silence for a long time. Ultimately, he decided on a humanoid mech design. After all, this round was different from the previous one. The previous round had been restricted to ground combat, but this round was limited to blade combat. The flexibility of a humanoid mech was undoubtedly superior. Of course, if the restriction of blade were not in place, the Iron Ball mech could have been deployed. But now with the restriction in place, he had to forge a single blade as the mech's sole weapon. This blade would undoubtedly be the core component. Its strength must be exceptional, even surpassing that of the mech's frame. Blade. Du Zifeng tapped on the table repeatedly. He was contemplating what type of blade the mech should employ. Other designers were undoubtedly racking their brains to create exceptionally sharp blades. However, while a blade could be honed to great sharpness, its very structure dictated a fatal flaw: it was prone to breaking. Compared to the sturdy frame of a mech, no matter how strong the blade was, it was impossible to sever a mech's frame in a single strike. Even if the blade and frame were made of the same material, it was still impossible. Wait, why did blade combat have to involve a blade? A spark of inspiration flashed through Du Zifeng's mind. The essence of blade combat was more about incapacitating the pilot than destroying the mech. If that could be achieved, a blade was not strictly necessary. So what kind of weapon could instantly incapacitate the pilot? Impact. If it were a Bladian blade, the chance of stabbing the opposing pilot directly was actually quite low. But what about a hammer? The force of impact is distributed over an area, while the force of a thrust is concentrated at a single point. Area damage is clearly superior to point damage. While Du Zifeng was engrossed in his mech design, Nie Longxiang had already left the repair room, which was filled with broadcast spheres. Designer Huang, you wanted to see me. In the common rest area outside, Nie Longxiang sat down opposite Huang Shichen with a delighted expression. Pass a message to Du Zifeng for me. He'll pay 2 million for the material parameters of the Iron Ball mech. This offer is only valid for this week. Nie Longxiang was overjoyed. He had never expected anyone to be interested in the Iron Ball mech. According to the confidentiality contract he had signed with Du Zifeng, it was explicitly stated that he would receive a 10% share of any profits generated by the Iron Ball mech. 10% of 2 million was 200,000. No problem, leave it to me. Nie Longxiang's eyes had already turned into dollar signs as he repeatedly patted his chest in assurance. A few minutes later, Du Zifeng noticed Nie Longxiang floating back into the repair room. He cast a glance at him, but paid no further attention, continuing to refine his mech design. Designer Du. Nie Longxiang rubbed his hands together as he sidled closer, his voice dripping with obsequiousness. His demeanor was utterly sycophantic, like a persistent fly. Spit it out if you have something to say. Du Zifeng didn't even look up, continuing to operate the design terminal. Designer Huang just came to me wanting the material parameters of the Iron Ball mech. Not for sale. Du Zifeng refused outright, leaving no room for negotiation. Nie Longxiang felt as though he had swallowed something foul. He took several deep breaths to calm himself. Designer Du, they're willing to pay a considerable price. At the mention of a price, Du Zifeng looked up for the first time. Seeing Du Zifeng raise his head, Nie Longxiang's face lit up with joy. This much. Nie Longxiang skillfully avoided the broadcast spheres and made a universal hand gesture. Du Zifeng understood the gesture. 2 million, a generous offer. Not bad, quite sincere. Du Zifeng nodded. But I recall Huang Zichen's earlier assessment of the Iron Ball mech and your assessment as well. In your eyes, wasn't the Iron Ball mech worth nothing? So I'm not selling. Nia Longxiang panicked. Don't say that. Designer Du, let's talk this over. You didn't talk things over with me before. Du Zifeng's smile remained unchanged, but his tone was bitingly cold. Du Zifeng ignored Nia Longxiang and continued with his work. He was not surprised that the iron ball had caught someone's eye. Though some claimed it lacked artistic sense, creating the iron ball required more than just aesthetics. The material strength had to meet a certain standard, not even a fraction lower. Initially, someone taking an interest in the iron ball seemed fortunate, as its designer Du Zifeng would also reap financial rewards. He cared little about whom Nia Longxiang planned to sell it to. However, Huang Xichen had insulted the iron ball on the arena stage just moments ago. Now turning around to demand the data, what wishful thinking. Du Zifeng watched Nia Longxiang turn and leave the repair workshop with a helpless expression, unconcerned about where he went. Nia Longxiang soon returned to the common lounge. Huang Xichen was still waiting for his response. So did it work? No, Du Zifeng refused to sell. Nia Longxiang shook his head. You're useless. Huang Xichen fumed in frustration. He had set his sights on the material parameters in Du Zifeng's possession. After all, the overall strength of the iron ball mecha relied on them. Whether the iron ball possessed artistic sense might be debatable, but its formidable strength was evident to all. Achieving this required exceptional material resilience, especially since the second round would be a close-quarters melee, as everyone knew such battles demanded immense durability from the mecha's materials, leaving no room for negligence. Moreover, this time the mecha pilots would operate remotely free from mortal peril. No one could predict how recklessly they might act. This, Nia Longxiang truly lacked foresight. Mecha pilots and designers were meant to complement each other. Even if they held personal grudges, they would never openly sever ties. They should maintain at least a minimal level of civility, never resorting to mutual accusations. If this designer couldn't get along with you, would you publicly fall out with the next one too? Huang Xichen was utterly exasperated by Nia Longxiang's behavior on the main stage. Is it because of what happened on the main stage earlier? Huang Xichen asked Nia Longxiang. Nia Longxiang nodded. Huang Xichen let out a sigh. Whatever it takes, go and mend your relationship with Du Zifeng. He'll give you 1% of the transaction price as your commission. Huang Xichen gritted his teeth, determined to go all out. To advance to the next round, shedding a bit of blood was worth it. Hearing that he could earn an extra 10% from Huang Xichen, Nia Longxiang's eyes lit up. Getting 10% from each side meant a net profit of 20%. Leave it to me. Nia Longxiang thumped his chest in assurance. For Nia Longxiang, only money mattered. Dignity was utterly meaningless in comparison. He hurried back to the repair workshop with renewed fervor. Du Zifeng was no longer at the design terminal. He had flown onto the shoulder of a mecha, gazing at the starry sky beyond the skylight. Just as Nia Longxiang forced a flattering smile onto his face, ready to grovel at Du Zifeng's feet. Du Zifeng turned his head from the skylight to look at Nia Longxiang. At the same time, a virtual document unfolded before Nia Zifeng. A slip of the name, but the intent was clear. This is the confidentiality agreement for the new mecha. Sign it. Nia Longxiang was overjoyed. Had Du Zifeng already created a new mecha so quickly? This Du Zifeng was truly a genius. If Huang Xichen later wanted Du Zifeng's mecha parameters, wouldn't that mean another windfall? Nia Longxiang rubbed his hands together excitedly, like a fly eagerly opening the new contract. But the next moment his face darkened. Was there something wrong with this new mecha contract? This time the share Nia Longxiang could get didn't even amount to 1%. It was reduced to a nominal share of 0.001. What difference did that make from 0? Nia Longxiang seethed with rage, but remembering the 2% profit he hadn't yet secured, he forced himself to suppress it. Designer Du, have you forgotten something? Like missing a 1 or 2 in the profit share? Du Zifeng's lips curled into a smile. What do you think? Seeing Du Zifeng's malicious grin, Nia Longxiang's fleshy face involuntarily twitched. Is this fake? Nia Longxiang persisted, desperately probing Du Zifeng. Sign it or not, it's up to you. Anyway, after the first round, I've come to understand my own skills. Du Zifeng remained composed, leaning back against the massive mecha behind him. He was unconcerned whether Nia Longxiang signed or not. As long as he had the editing simulator, no matter the arena, he believed he could achieve results. But it was different for Nia Longxiang. Without him, with his mediocre piloting skills, advancing further was nothing but wishful thinking. Moreover, this new mecha required a high level of technical skill, and Du Zifeng was certain Nia Longxiang couldn't handle it. Nia Longxiang hesitated for a long time, unable to make up his mind. Signing felt like gaining no benefit, not signing meant having no mecha for the next round, and being eliminated together. If I sign, can we still go through with the Iron Ball deal with Huang Xichen? Nia Longxiang still clung to the profits promised by Huang Xichen. Nia Longxiang, do you think I would agree? Du Zifeng's face still bore a warm smile. But his words sent a chill down Nia Longxiang's spine. He instantly knew it was over. The 2% profit from the iron ball was forever out of reach. Nia Longxiang bitterly regretted his loose tongue. Why had he confronted Du Zifeng on the main stage? He wished he could slap himself. That was 400,000. If he could just get his hands on it, he would even be willing to withdraw from the competition. But all of it had vanished like a bubble. It had completely slipped away from Nia Longxiang. What pained him even more was that he had to sign the new Mecha confidentiality agreement. Under this contract, he would never enjoy the favorable terms of the first one. Nia Longxiang had no choice but to sign this new contract. For the sake of the next round, he scrawled his name. Ding. Your new contract has been successfully uploaded to the Celestial Network. Hearing the notification, Du Zifeng smiled. Excellent time to get to work. Du Zifeng sprang up, energetically floating down from the Mecha's shoulder and heading straight for the design terminal. Designer Du, haven't you finished? Nia Longxiang was astonished. Who said that? Du Zifeng shot him a disdainful glance. Nia Longxiang's mouth twitched. It seemed he had imagined it himself. Du Zifeng immersed himself once more in mecha construction. The basic framework was set. Since it was a mecha for hand-to-hand combat, the strength would continue using the Iron Ball's materials. The skeleton would adopt a humanoid form sized as a medium mecha. It would possess the agility lacking in heavy mechas and the durability absent in light ones. Having both yet excelling at neither. So Du Zifeng decided to cut some elements. Mecha armor. Since it would be smashed to pieces anyway, it was unnecessary. Control electronics. They would be cut, stabbed, and severed regardless, so they were out. With the armor and electronic control system removed, the mecha was reduced to a mere skeleton and countless manual control levers. Thus an utterly bizarre mecha gradually took shape. There was no armor plating, no electronic controls, only a humanoid skeleton remained with the cockpit tightly sealed at its heart. Its weapon was an oversized heavy hammer designed for wide-area impact. Since the mecha was built on a medium scale, it was massive and robust. Du Zifeng entered the data into his own editing simulator. Soon he received a result, the word rejected. Du Zifeng was stunned and quickly checked the reasons. The medium mecha configuration, the removal of the electronic control system, and the material's self-weight due to its enormous height. These 3 points were all highlighted in red by the editing simulator, indicating failure. Du Zifeng slapped his forehead. He had been careless. Even the bare skeleton of a typical medium mecha was incredibly heavy. Driving such a colossal machine required extensive electromechanical coordination. And with electromechanics came the need for a corresponding electronic control system. No wonder the editing simulator had rejected it. Realizing this, Du Zifeng immediately began making modifications. Since that was the case, the mecha would no longer be classified as medium. Weight and size were interdependent, altering one demanded changing the other. Moreover, a medium mecha couldn't simply eliminate its electronic control system. Adding such a system would increase both the mecha's weight and its protective armor, contradicting Du Zifeng's original concept. Du Zifeng changed the medium mecha parameters directly to those of a light mecha and ran the editing simulator again. It was rejected once more. He couldn't help but slap his forehead. The same 3 issues were still marked in red. It seemed that the protective armor and electronic control system were difficult to eliminate. Du Zifeng racked his brain, but found no good solution. Such was the plight of a mecha designer. His visions often crumbled against practical constraints, leading to an awkward cycle of adding flour to water and water to flour. However, since Du Zifeng possessed a system like the editing simulator, he decided to leave it to the system. He retained a few parameters and let the simulator run its own calculations. The editing simulator quickly produced its answer, a medium mecha spherical in shape. Du Zifeng covered his face. Wasn't this just an oversized iron ball model? Yet the editing simulator had perfectly met his earlier requirements. Medium mecha complete. Skeleton material strength complete. Extensive electronic control system removal complete. The large heavy hammer weapon was replaced by its own spherical body, equally capable of area attacks. But this wasn't what Du Zifeng wanted. Still, Du Zifeng glanced at the densely packed control levers in the cockpit, stroked his chin, and broke into a smile. Light mechas and medium mechas were fundamentally different after all. The difficulty of control also skyrocketed accordingly. It seemed the Blade Duel didn't mandate a humanoid mecha anyway. The live stream orb perfectly conveyed Du Zifeng's smile to all the viewers. Is this finished? Hey, check the design terminal. Oh, it was red just now, but now it's green. Wow. Incredible speed. I wonder what kind of mecha he designed. Ugh, why the annoying confidentiality rules. No choice, mecha parameters are a kind of secret in themselves, the most valuable part. At this design speed, even a master designer probably couldn't match it. Sporadic discussions among the audience kept popping up. From the start, Du Zifeng and Nia Longxiang hadn't clashed, causing many onlookers to quickly lose interest. A large number of casual viewers left, leaving only mecha enthusiasts. They were curious about what mecha Du Zifeng had designed on one hand. On the other hand, they marveled at his design speed. What do you think? Could Du Zifeng have not designed anything and just resubmitted the iron ball data? An unexpected path. He wouldn't be that shameless, would he? I think so. But mecha design isn't that simple, right? Hard to say. Think about it. What part of the iron ball's design couldn't be used for a blade duel? Like having no blade. Haha, that kill me upstairs. Same here, haha. Why not just add a blade to the iron ball? Damn, I want to see that mecha. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I bow to your creativity, haha. Haha, anticipation maxed out instantly. Du Zifeng scrolled through the viewer's wild ideas and couldn't help but smile. Sometimes you had to admire the audience's imagination. But adding a blade to the iron ball, it didn't seem impossible. As long as the blade was harder than the ground, it could pierce anything. Du Zifeng decided to act on the thought and immediately sat back down at the design terminal. The green light instantly turned red. Guys, look, it's red again. Wow, could it really be the iron ball with a blade? Ha, confirmed. The designer is secretly stealing ideas from the stream. Geez, I have to watch the next round. It's getting more interesting by the minute. The flying iron ball, with a blade on its head. Whoever it sees, it slices. Ha. You lunatics, that image is too beautiful. Ooh, I dare not look, ha. Du Zifeng paid no further attention to the audience's commotion, focusing entirely on having the editing simulator add the extra blade to the iron ball. A bizarrely shaped iron ball took form once again. As long as the materials were up to standard, adding a blade to the iron ball posed no problem. The key was that the iron ball was a medium mecha. One must know that although the difference between light and medium mechas was just a single word, the material strength required for each was vastly different. Even the same mecha couldn't be simply scaled up proportionally. Materials that could support a light mecha might not necessarily support a medium one. Du Zifeng wasn't worried that other designers would create heavy mechas for this blade duel. Perhaps some designers like him would design medium mechas. But Du Zifeng was certain no heavy mechas would appear. Heavy mechas involved considerations too vast for a single designer to complete in a short time. They were more often built by several designers, each responsible for a part, pooling their efforts together. For an individual designer, the medium mecha was already the dividing line between an excellent designer and an ordinary one. Any designer who could independently design a medium mecha was already considered excellent in the eyes of the world. An ordinary designer couldn't get their medium mecha design to pass the Sky Network's feasibility assessment. Materials are being assembled and combined. Mecha construction progress. 1. Watching the words building on the design terminal, Du Zifeng nodded in satisfaction. The iron ball with a blade. Wasn't that the iron blade ball? Du Zifeng shouted triumphantly in his heart. Decision made: the next combat mecha would be called the Iron Blade Ball. Du Zifeng gazed with satisfaction at the iron ball blade before him. It was a medium-sized mech, equally formidable in defense. Yet its true significance lay not in its defensive capabilities, but in the fact that it was a fully functional medium mech. Anyone who dared question the Iron Ball series would be silenced before this medium mech. While the light mech, the Iron Ball, could still face doubts and criticisms from various quarters. The moment the iron ball blade appeared, such dissenting voices would vanish without a trace. Du Zifeng had no intention of being prematurely labeled a low-tier designer. After all, in this world, independent designers capable of creating a medium mech were not abundant. He believed he rightfully deserved the title of an outstanding designer. Just then, Nie Longxiang, who had been idly floating nearby like a frog, ceased his stretching exercises. Catching sight of Du Zifeng stepping away from the design terminal, where subtitles were being constructed on the screen, Nie Longxiang realized Du Zifeng had completed his second round of mech design. Du Zifeng, are you done? A hint of surprise colored Nie Longxiang's voice at Du Zifeng's speed. Du Zifeng nodded, his figure already floating towards their usual spot, the shoulder of the light mech in the repair bay. And the name? Nie Longxiang pressed on, though his gaze was fixed on the design terminal. He quickly noticed the 4 large characters displayed there, the Mechs preset name. It was optional, but this time Du Zifeng had filled it in. Iron Ball Blade. Don't tell me this is just another version of the Iron Ball. Then if other designers criticize you this time, you can't blame me. Look at what you keep designing. Despite his words, Nie Longxiang inwardly cursed the new Iron Ball variant. In his eyes, the Iron Ball blade was no different from the original Iron Ball. He even felt a flicker of secret glee. With another mech like this, when his turn came in the second round, no blame would fall on him regardless of the outcome. If the Iron Ball blade itself was flawed, what did that have to do with him, the mech pilot? Du Zifeng knew exactly what Nie Longxiang was thinking, but he couldn't be bothered with the man. Du Zifeng continued to gaze at the starry sky. Though the stars were the same, they were no longer the stars of his past life. Do you think Designer Du is truly an independent designer? Right, he doesn't seem to have any assistants. Not a single installer, tuner, mechanic, or circuit inspector. Wait, with no one else does he rely solely on a single design to create a finished mech? That's a bit unbelievable. A one-shot designer needing no assistance, building a mech using only the Skynet's automated system. I feel like I'm witnessing a future master in the making. But a mech like the Iron Ball probably doesn't need much tuning. Don't underestimate the Iron Ball's strength. Everyone knows it's easy to design, so why hasn't anyone else designed one in all these years? Really, I think it remains to be seen. Without real data to back it up, it's all just empty talk. Little did Du Zifeng know his seemingly ordinary actions had sparked heated discussions among numerous professional viewers. They were all astonished by Du Zifeng's ability to work without assistance. Nie Longxiang, also a newly minted mech pilot, was equally oblivious to this. Neither of them found anything remarkable about it. The audience stared at the live stream in stunned disbelief. What should have been an astonishing feat appeared utterly mundane. Du Zifeng picked up a large wrench that drifted by. Hefting it in his hand, he was slightly surprised. His physical condition here was remarkably good. In his Bodis memory, this wrench was quite heavy. Yet now, even in zero gravity, Du Zifeng could feel the difference between his present and past self. It felt much lighter in his hand than before. For a designer, personally modifying a mech in the later stages was not uncommon. A strong physique would naturally be a great asset for mech improvements. It spared him the inefficiency of relying solely on directing others to achieve his goals due to a lack of physical strength. Such an approach was not only inefficient, but also failed to perfectly realize his vision for the mech. A mech involved many elements: fundamental materials science, electrical engineering, mechanical transmission. Each aspect had to be integrated much like a human body: the brain, nerves, skeleton, muscles, joints, blood vessels, and vital organs. It was a system. Every mech was a unique combination of different systems. If even a single element failed to meet the design target, the mech would struggle to fulfill its initial design requirements. If the skeleton was flawed, the mech would be fragile and easily shattered. If the transmission was poor, the mech would be unable to move its body flexibly. And now this medium mech, the Iron Ball blade, was the epitome of such integration. Whether it was the material strength to bear its own weight, the transmission system for agile movement, or the cockpit for relaying commands, all were flawlessly achieved with the help of the editing simulator. Simply presenting this mech to the audience was enough. Du Zifeng had achieved his goal. How many in this world could independently design a medium mech as effortlessly as he did? Even if he were eliminated in the next round, so what? With the editing simulator, he feared no setback. Designer Du, the mech is complete. At that moment, Nie Longxiang bellowed to Du Zifeng. Du Zifeng glanced at the design terminal below. Indeed, as Nie Longxiang said, the mech design was successfully finished. Pushing off with his feet, Du Zifeng leaped down from the light mech's shoulder. He input a few commands into the terminal to finalize the process. Then designer Du, I'm off to train, Nie Longxiang said with an eager look. Since this round was a blade combat, all mech pilots didn't need to pilot the mechs in person. They could directly remote connect to the constructed mechs. This made training far more convenient. The greatest advantage of remote connection was avoiding the physical feedback from the mech. Seeming accustomed to Du Zifeng's speed, Nie Longxiang climbed into the training pod with an excited expression. Compared to other designers, Du Zifeng's speed, Nie Longxiang had to admit, was truly fast. In a mech design competition, speed was undoubtedly an advantage for the designer. It gave the partnered mech pilot more time to familiarize themselves with the mech. It could be a critical factor in success or failure. However, when the cockpit of the Iron Ball blade was projected into the training pod, Nie Longxiang was left utterly dumbfounded. He stared in disbelief at the dense array of control buttons. From various control sticks to toggle switches and multicolored buttons, it all left Nie Longxiang at a loss. A designer Du, is this correct? I remember the inside of the last Iron Ball wasn't like this. This is the Iron Ball blade, not the Iron Ball. What gave you the illusion that the Iron Ball blade is the same as the Iron Ball? Du Zifeng retorted with a sneer, shooting back at Nie Longxiang. The audience still watching the live broadcast grew curious as well. The new mecha is called the Iron Ball blade. So it's an upgraded version of the Iron Ball. Not necessarily, though the name differs by just one character. Then why did pilot Nie ask designer Du that question? Too bad we can't see what the mecha looks like now. It wouldn't actually be an iron ball with a blade attached, would it? Haha, that would be truly spectacular. Count me in, haha. Judging by pilot Nie's troubled expression, the new mecha must be really tough. Damn copyright protection, I want to see it now. Nie Longxiang's reaction only intensified the audience's curiosity about the new mecha. At that moment, Nie Longxiang was deeply troubled, utterly despondent. Before him lay a vast array of buttons, and he had no idea how to even start the mecha. Compared to the nearly foolproof operation of the Iron Ball, even if he had a manual for this new mecha, it would likely take him several days just to grasp the basics. Designer Du, are you sure this is really a mecha? Nie Longxiang pointed at the dense clusters of buttons, questioning Du Zifeng. Of course. Du Zifeng replied matter-of-factly. Didn't you say you didn't want to pilot a foolproof mecha like the Iron Ball? Well, this Iron Ball blade will definitely satisfy your desire to showcase your mecha piloting talent. This is an exceptional mecha tailored just for you. Don't be ungrateful. A smug smile spread across Du Zifeng's face. Forcing someone he disliked to do the very thing they hated most was immensely satisfying. Niao Longxiang's face was now twisted with frustration. Staring at the overwhelming array of buttons, he was completely at a loss. Bang! Niao Longxiang suddenly clenched his fist and slammed it heavily against the training pod. Designer, do I think you're deliberately making things difficult for me? Is it because I exposed your incompetence on stage that you hold a grudge and treat me like this, eh? How am I supposed to pilot a mecha like this? Unable to contain his anger any longer, Niao Longxiang climbed out of the training pod and began accusing Du Zifeng. In the live broadcast, a flood of their fighting comments scrolled across the screen. Du Zifeng sneered at Niao Longxiang. Niao Longxiang, please understand your position in this competition. I don't care whether you pilot this mecha or not. I've already designed it according to the competition's requirements. Whether you choose to pilot it is your own affair. For me, the worst outcome is just being eliminated. Du Zifeng felt he could no longer endure spending another second with such an absurd individual. Not only do you lack proper mecha piloting skills, but you also lack the attitude expected of a mecha pilot. If you think you can't even understand or control a mecha like this, then go find the teacher who taught you mecha piloting. Ask him why he didn't teach you the universal language of mecha operation. With those final words, Du Zifeng flew back to the shoulder of the light mecha, having made up his mind to ignore Niao Longxiang entirely. His own work was done, the rest was entirely Niao Longxiang's responsibility. Whether Niao Longxiang could master the iron ball blade was no longer his concern. For a mecha pilot, the ability to effortlessly control a medium-sized mecha is the defining line between an exceptional pilot and an ordinary one. Niao Longxiang watched Du Zifeng's retreating figure with a mix of resentment and regret. If only he had suppressed his anger earlier, there might still have been room for negotiation. But when Niao Longxiang looked back at the training pod with its dense array of controls, his head throbbed with despair. How was he supposed to pilot such a mecha? How could he possibly pilot it? He had initially planned to use the live broadcast to pressure Du Zifeng with words. But to his surprise, Du Zifeng was unyielding, even willing to let everything collapse rather than compromise. Niao Longxiang stood there for a long time, pondering before finally gritting his teeth and climbing back into the training pod. Du Zifeng had the confidence to walk away, but Niao Longxiang did not. If the audience discovered that the problem lay with him, no mecha would ever be entrusted to him again. With a sense of reckless abandon, Niao Longxiang decided to give it a try. He would pilot this mecha. If it crashed and burned, he would have grounds to argue with Du Zifeng, whether the fault lay with the mecha or his piloting skills. In an instant, Niao Longxiang had already prepared various arguments to slander Du Zifeng. Meanwhile, Du Zifeng observed Niao Longxiang from the shoulder of the light mecha. Seeing Niao Longxiang sit back in the training pod with a look of discontent, Du Zifeng understood that he would likely cause trouble at the main venue again, just like last time. But how could Du Zifeng give Niao Longxiang another such opportunity? Once this medium mecha was displayed at the main venue, Du Zifeng was ready to astonish everyone. He suddenly stood up from the mecha's shoulder, feeling the urge to step outside for the first time. After all, the competition rules didn't explicitly forbid leaving during the break. Most designers didn't venture out, not because they couldn't, but because designing a mecha demanded immense effort. Creating a qualified mecha within such a tight deadline was no easy feat. They had neither the time nor the leisure to consider such things. But for Du Zifeng at this moment, it was no problem at all. Since the mecha was already built, the remaining work was for the pilot to familiarize themselves with and master it. He hadn't gone out during the first round. Partly because he worried Niao Longxiang might damage the mecha, and partly because he wanted to observe and gather data on the strengths and weaknesses of spherical mechas. But now that intention had faded. Through the iron ball, Du Zifeng had already gained deep insight into spherical mechas. The iron ball blade was fundamentally similar to the iron ball. Most importantly, Du Zifeng could no longer bear to watch Niao Longxiang's atrocious piloting skills. After Du Zifeng left the maintenance room, Niao Longxiang fumbled with the controls. Yet he still couldn't get the iron ball blade to start. In utter frustration, Niao Longxiang had no choice but to seek help from the competition director, who had already accepted a bribe of 50,000 star coins from him. The competition director's head ached at the sight of Niao Longxiang's call, but having taken a substantial sum of money, he had no way out. After understanding the situation, he could only assign 2 professional mecha technicians to Niao Longxiang. Mecha technicians occupied a middle ground between pilots and designers. In terms of piloting, they couldn't match pilots. In terms of design, they couldn't match designers. But in the mecha field, they held a crucial position. They could help unfamiliar pilots quickly get up to speed with a mecha, conveying the designer's initial intentions for certain parts, enabling the pilot to better understand and control the mecha. They could also, through their understanding of the pilot, communicate pain points that only pilots would notice to the designer, thereby helping to optimize the mecha. 2 professional mech technicians soon arrived beside Niao Longxiang. When they saw the densely packed buttons on the training pod, their expressions mirrored Niao Longxiang's own when he first encountered the iron sphere blade. Their faces were frozen in shock. Nia Longxiang's heart leaped with joy at the sight of their expressions. See, I told you this mech is flawed. A mech designer who does such haphazard work is one in a million. Knowing Du Zifeng had already left, Nia Longxiang began to vent his resentment freely. Nia Longxiang knew that the live-streaming orb in the repair bay would broadcast his words. Since the audience couldn't yet see the true nature of the iron sphere blade, he planned to plant seeds of doubt about Du Zifeng in their minds. That way, if something went wrong, it would be easier to shift the blame. But neither of the two mech technicians paid him any attention. Instead, they exchanged words with each other. Is this a medium-sized mech? Based on the data, it should be. One technician asked uncertainly, and the other replied with equal uncertainty. Meanwhile, the audience's excitement ignited at the information hinted by the two technicians. The words medium-sized mech scrolled across the screen repeatedly. Designer Du is going all out for the next match. Is this the first medium-sized mech in this competition? If it's real, can old Du just shout who else? I don't believe it. That Du guy looks like a nobody. Let's wait and see. A medium-sized mech design. Let me take a look. Wow, a designer who can produce a medium-sized mech is about to skyrocket. As the audience chatted with fervor, Nia Longxiang edged closer to the two technicians. What's so special about this medium-sized mech? Will it affect my piloting? Hearing Nia Longxiang's almost ignorant reaction, the two technicians looked at him with disdain. Do you know how many medium-sized mechs have been recorded in the Tiannet this year? One technician asked Nia Longxiang. Nia Longxiang's face was full of bewildered question marks. The technician covered his face, truly casting pearls before swine. 5,436. The other technician, unable to bear it, couldn't help but answer. That's quite a lot, isn't it? Hearing the number, several thousand, Nia Longxiang didn't think medium-sized mechs were anything impressive. The technician who had asked the question grew irritated at Nia Longxiang's tone. Then do you know how many light mechs there are? 2,800,000. This time, without waiting for Nia Longxiang to answer, the technician blurted out the answer. The staggering disparity between the numbers of medium and light mechs shocked even the livestream audience. They knew medium mechs were rare, but not that the gap with light mechs was so terrifying. You're here to help me. Just tell me how to pilot it. Don't bother with anything else. Frustrated by the technician's verbal jabs, Nia Longxiang suddenly flared up. The two professional technicians exchanged glances, seeing the helplessness in each other's eyes. But since this was a direct order from the competition director, they had to comply. This is the startup area. You need to press buttons A4, 5DT5, and H1 in sequence to activate the external fuel injection. After the red light turns green, press D2, 9C, 5B, and F7 to disconnect the external fuel injection. Then, the two technicians took turns pointing at various areas of the iron sphere blade, explaining the functions of each button based on their colors and labels. This is the forward control command. Press and hold TI2 to regulate fuel input and pressurize this hydraulic bar into the green zone. Never let the bar enter the red zone, or it will damage the entire drive system. Also, don't let it drop below the orange zone, or the power system will stall due to low pressure. No, you're wrong. Pressurize slowly, not all at once. Stop. 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 Didn't I just tell you? Move your right foot from the 34D pedal to the D2E1. If you keep messing around like this, can you even train? Wait, where are you putting your left hand? That's the button for SF34 hydraulic pressurization, not SF43. Are you even a mech pilot? Can't you handle such simple axes and linkages? What, you don't want to pilot it anymore? I don't want to teach you either. Nia Longxiang stared at the screen full of buttons as described by the two technicians. Each button had a purpose: kinetic zone, control zone, radar zone, balance adjustment, zone, fire control zone. They were so refined that a pilot could control every single movement of the mech as long as they understood each command and combined them to achieve the desired effect. But if Nia Longxiang pressed even one command incorrectly, then sorry. The mech would either lose power, instantly break the cockpit's force balance, or the entire power zone would stall. After a short while of operation, Nia Longxiang had given up inside. He really couldn't handle this mech. The person who built this medium-sized mech is truly remarkable. Yes, even a rookie pilot, once they understand all the buttons, can pilot this mech. A rookie directly piloting a medium mech. I would have found that unimaginable before. But it's right here before us. And once you master this mech, you can basically handle any other medium mech. It belongs more in a training ground for rookie pilots, not here. At that moment, the two technicians began to sigh in admiration as they looked at the iron sphere blade. Wait, what nonsense are you spouting? With all these buttons, you call this a beginner-friendly mech? Nia Longxiang was displeased upon hearing their words. Such a torturous mech. Whoever wants to pilot it, go ahead. Not friendly. I'm just a technician, but I dare say this is the first mech I've ever seen that's fully controlled according to the mech operation manual. All mech-related applications are demonstrated here. And most importantly, it's a medium-sized mech. It's even a standard-type medium mech with a controlled layout. Do you understand the value of that? Individually, none of these features are impressive, but it integrates all those ordinary elements together. That's not something just anyone can do. Most crucially, it has immense versatility. Once a pilot understands how to operate this Mech's power system, they simultaneously understand the power systems of other medium Mechs. If someone can master everything here, they become a qualified medium Mech pilot. Do you get how incredible that is? After hearing the technician's explanation, Nie Longxiang stared at the Mech in disbelief. Was this thing a medium Mech trainer? Nie Longxiang was filled with disbelief according to what those two technicians had said. The Mecha Zifeng had just created was not only a medium-sized model, but also a trainer suitable for practice. No way. Nie Longxiang muttered under his breath. Upon hearing his words, the technicians shook their heads in unison. Cherish this opportunity. How many people spend their whole lives yearning to become a medium-sized mecha pilot, but never get the chance? Now a medium-sized mecha with such a low barrier to entry is right before you. You can practice with it freely. There's no better chance than this. After speaking, the technician turned his gaze to the other technician beside him. Such a fine mecha. I never expected this competition to produce someone so talented. Indeed, though the controls are complex and the buttons numerous, the mecha itself is truly excellent. I'd love to see what an outstanding pilot could do with a mecha like this. But the two technicians exchanged a glance as they spoke, then looked at Nie Longxiang. Nie Longxiang felt a surge of anger, but had no recourse. Finally, he plopped back into the training cockpit sulking and began to follow the technician's earlier instructions, attempting to pilot the mecha again. The two technicians watched for a while in silence. Then, unable to bear it any longer, they both began to hurl rebukes at Nie Longxiang through the headset. Didn't we tell you? The first step is to inject fuel. How can you pilot a mecha without injecting fuel? And your hands, why are they wandering? When injecting fuel, you must be ready to cut off the input at any moment to prevent any unexpected external incidents. What? You say you didn't know? Have you memorized the mecha pilot safety code? No. Then how did you pass the mecha pilot qualification exam? After a flurry of activity, the two technicians finally managed to get Nie Longxiang to complete the first step of fuel injection. Press F4 and 3T to control the cockpit's posture balance during dynamic movement. No, don't put your feet there. What? You're dizzy. Then why aren't you holding down the 8G and C23 buttons for longer? If you like to operate recklessly like that, the cockpit spins into the sky. Of course you'll get dizzy. Wait, isn't this a basic operation for a mecha pilot? How can you say you don't understand? Have you never even studied the basic mecha control manual? After shouting this, the technician confirmed one thing beyond doubt. Nie Longxiang's mecha piloting skills were practically non-existent. No one knew how this guy had obtained his pilot's license. A mecha pilot who didn't know how to pilot a mecha. Could anything in this world be more absurd? The two technicians truly couldn't bear to watch anymore, and had long wanted to abandon such a pathetic novice pilot. Were it not for the fact that this assignment had been personally given by the competition director, the two technicians would have really wanted to throw in the towel. Time slowly passed amid their mutual torment. Yet after 3 whole hours, the two mecha technicians still saw no improvement in Nie Longxiang. Only repeated operational errors, as if he could only focus on one thing at a time. The two technicians could only console each other repeatedly, forcefully suppressing the fury building within them. Perhaps the medium-sized mecha is just too complex for him. Maybe our teaching method was off just now. But what the hell is with these clumsy beginner-level mistakes you keep making? Another hour passed. The two technicians floated weakly in the air, drifting aimlessly. Meanwhile, Nie Longxiang sat blankly in the training cockpit, staring at the dense array of buttons before him. An hour later, the competition director received a phone call. Director, what assignment did you give Xiao Wang and Xiao Zhou? Nothing special, just asked them to help that Nie Longxiang get familiar with the mecha. Director, then why are Xiao Wang and Xiao Zhou insisting on resigning? It's like even 9 oxen couldn't pull them back. Director, you know our mecha debugging department has always been understaffed. We barely have anyone left. If 2 more leave, how can we get any work done? Don't worry, let me look into the situation. I'll give you a satisfactory answer. The competition director could no longer sit still. He stood up, abruptly pacifying the head of the debugging department while heading out the door. In truth, mecha technicians occupied an awkward position requiring knowledge of both pilots and designers. Yet their salaries were a world apart from those of pilots and designers. Hence few were willing to take on such work. Exceptional mecha technicians were even rarer. After all, if a technician became truly skilled with their understanding of mecha, why wouldn't they switch careers to become a pilot or a designer? Those professions were far more prestigious and lucrative than being a technician. The competition director summoned his assistant and sent her to investigate. Soon he learned the full story. Nie Longxiang. The competition director gritted his teeth and spat out the name. It was that guy again. He felt that taking the 5,000 star coins from Nie Longxiang had been like asking for trouble. How long had the competition been running, and this guy had already caused so many problems? The logistics department had complained about him before, and even its director had threatened to resign on the spot. After much persuasion, the logistics director was convinced to stay. Now the mecha debugging department was in a huge mess. The competition director rubbed his forehead where blood vessels throbbed painfully. Having just communicated with the debugging department's director, everything else could be discussed. But regarding Nia Longxiang's mecha debugging, the department will not send anyone else to help. Director, what should we do? Nia Longxiang just called again, saying, if we don't send someone to teach him, hell expose the fact that you took his money. Hearing this, the director flew into a rage and swept everything off his desk. How dare he? The assistant shrank back, too timid to make a sound. Soon the competition director forcefully suppressed his anger. That mecha was designed by Du Zifeng. There shouldn't be a problem asking him to teach Nia Longxiang right. The assistant looked as if she wanted to say something, but hesitated. The director urged her to speak frankly. Well, director, they seemed to have a falling out during the live broadcast earlier. Judging by how sharp they were with each other then, I doubt designer Du would be willing. The director recalled that this seemed to be the case after some thought. After pondering back and forth, the director finally slammed the table. Then we'll recruit from the entire universe. Offer a high salary to hire temporary mecha technicians. The assistant quickly took her leave to carry out the order. The director watched her bustling figure and took a deep breath. He truly should never have taken those 5,000 star coins from Nia Longxiang. A typical technician only earned about 300 star coins a month. Now hiring a temporary technician through public recruitment would cost him at least 1,000 star coins. Soon a technician lured by a hefty bounty approached Nia Longxiang. An hour later, that technician solemnly submitted his resignation to the event director. However, the request was not approved. The event director pointed out the exorbitant penalty clause in his contract. Upon seeing the agreement, the technician's heart was filled with silent lament. Yet since it was a contract he had signed himself, he could only endure and see it through no matter how bitter. Time flew by. The all-frequency mech design competition soon ushered in its second round. As the live broadcast of the event approached, numerous viewers had already locked onto the official channel to watch the competition. On screen, a male and a female host were engaged in animated discussion. Highlights from the first round were being replayed in slow motion, explaining the intricacies to less informed audiences. Whenever the name of a renowned mech designer was mentioned, it would stir ripples across the bullet comments. Chu Sha and Shi Yingying, with their striking distinctiveness, drew a continuous barrage of bullet comments, calling them wife one after another without end. Then the scene shifted, switching back to the Iron Ball. As soon as the two hosts saw the Iron Ball, their tone grew impassioned. As the dark horse of the first round, the Iron Ball's stellar performance was evident to all. Although there was considerable controversy over its design, the flaws did not overshadow its merits. The Iron Ball remained an exceptionally outstanding mech. At that moment, the bullet comments that had been filled with wife vanished instantly. Countless Iron Ball comments appeared in perfect unison before everyone's eyes. The audience was eagerly anticipating one thing: the mech designer Du Zifeng and the mech pilot Nia Longxiang. They wondered what antics this pair of reluctant allies would conjure up for the masses this time. When does it start? Change. This is a mech competition, magician's scram. Chu Sha, my wife, so beautiful. Here it comes, ha. I want to see Chi Yingying on my wife is so gorgeous. Have that designer Du and pilot Nia fought yet? They fought, didn't you know? They even ended up in the hospital. Heard both of them withdrew. Huh. What happened? I wanted to see what other mech designer Du could design. Above are all liars, don't listen to them. Designer Du and Nia Longxiang are both here. They didn't fight, just watch in peace. Just as the audience was chatting fervently, Du Zifeng walked alone to the main venue for pre-competition preparations. Over the past few days, he had toured the space station and spent a few days on the surface. This body of his was a war orphan with no relatives and a somewhat reclusive personality. The advantage was that there were no complicated interpersonal relationships. The downside was that he had to rely on himself for everything. However, in this era of great cosmic exploration, people's basic living needs were all met. Thus, people in this world devoted more of their energy to pursuing the meaning of life. At that moment, Du Zifeng turned a corner and encountered a graceful figure. With sharp eyes and swift movements, Du Zifeng brushed past the person. Du Zifeng. A pleasant female voice reached his ears. He looked closely and saw that the woman was the outstanding mech designer Chu Sha. Chu Sha approached Du Zifeng warmly and extended her hand. Hello, designer Du. Hello, designer Chu. Du Zifeng held a favorable impression of Chu Sha. In the first round, even when the host tried to trap her, Chu Sha had tactfully praised his design. She did not blindly follow the crowd in criticizing him, always maintaining her own perspective. I heard you finalized the design in just one day. Designer Du is truly remarkable. You know, it took me a full 4 days just to sketch the prototype. The finalization only came on the 6th day. Chu Sha showered Du Zifeng with praise, leaving him somewhat embarrassed. Not at all, not at all. I feel I have much to learn from you, designer Chu. Your mech from last time inspired me greatly. Hearing Du Zifeng's compliment, Chu Sha's face bloomed with a radiant smile. Designer Du, I heard that this time you're designing a medium-sized mech. Haha, I'm also designing a medium-sized mech. I look forward to a direct showdown with your creation, Designer Du. Du Zifeng was taken aback by her words. A medium-sized mech was not something one could design on a whim. It was a formidable task in such a short time. That Chu Sha had also produced a medium-sized mech, this quickly marked her as a highly capable individual. Yes, I look forward to it too. But Designer Du, just how difficult is your mech to pilot? Your partner seems to be in quite a bind. As if recalling something, Chu Sha mentioned Nia Longxiang's recent situation to Du Zifeng. I heard the technician assigned to him has had several physical altercations with Nia Longxiang. One moment they're both battered and bruised from fighting, the next they're still unwilling to part ways. As she spoke, Chu Sha couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. Du Zifeng was somewhat aware of this matter. The event director had called him numerous times over the trouble Nia Longxiang caused. However, Du Zifeng refused to intervene every time. Since the organizing committee had paired him with Nia Longxiang again for the sake of ratings, he saw no need to curry favor with them. Cleaning up their mess and handling the aftermath. There's nothing I can do about it, though I don't want to get involved. Du Zifeng simply shook his head. Designer Du, I'm growing more and more curious about what your mech looks like. Chu Sha blinked her beautiful large eyes at Du Zifeng. You'll find out soon enough. Du Zifeng noticed that not far away the host of the main venue was holding a microphone dressed in a splendid evening gown ready to take the stage. Just then a staff member approached Chu Sha, signaling that she needed to touch up her makeup. Chu Sha apologized to Du Zifeng and left with the staff member. Du Zifeng glanced at Chu Sha's retreating figure, grabbed a drink from a nearby refreshment stand, and headed to the waiting room to await the host's cue to go on stage. As soon as Du Zifeng stepped inside, he saw many familiar faces: Fu Xinrui, Gu Tongshuan, Huang Xichintang, Weigong Li Downing, and Xin Zhe. They were all there. Of course, there was also a murderous glare fixed firmly on him. Du Zifeng met that gaze. It was Nia Longxiang. Du Zifeng. Nia Longxiang shouted loudly. His voice instantly silenced the entire waiting room. The previously noisy and lively atmosphere vanished. Are you deliberately messing with me? Du Zifeng looked at Nia Longxiang's furious expression, but did not rush to reply. He took a sip of his drink. You are not worth my effort. Du Zifeng sat down on an empty sofa and spoke deliberately, word by word. Nia Longxiang exploded instantly, abruptly rising to his feet with the intention of charging forward to beat Du Zifeng. The other mecha pilots in the waiting room, seeing the situation turn dire, quickly rose together to restrain Nia Longxiang. Brother Nia, no, don't start a fight. The match is about to begin. Calm down, calm down. If a real brawl breaks out, it'll be a scandal, and it won't do anyone any good. Brother Nia, yours is a medium-sized mecha. It's normal for it to be a bit difficult to handle. It's not worth it, not worth it. Du Zifeng watched Nia Longxiang's rampage with cold indifference. Since he dared to enter this place, now he naturally knew those mecha pilots and designers wouldn't let Nia Longxiang run amok. Du Zifeng, I know you did this on purpose. Nia Longxiang was still struggling violently among several burly men. Hearing this, Du Zifeng couldn't help but smile. What, you can't pilot a mecha, and now you're blaming the mecha designer? Wasn't it you who said you didn't want to pilot a foolproof mecha? Aren't I just fulfilling your wish? Du Zifeng said leisurely, then took a sip of his drink. Upon hearing this, Nia Longxiang flew into a rage again, but his twisting body was firmly pinned down by his colleagues beside him. Easy for you to say. Which mecha has ever required the pilot to control over 200 buttons simultaneously? And that's not even including the combination keys. All sorts of 2-key combos, 3-key combos, even 4-key combos. Du Zifeng, you're just bitter and deliberately messing with me. Nia Longxiang was like a man possessed. Nia Longxiang, if you think I'm targeting you, then your feeling is correct. I am targeting you. If you're not satisfied with the mecha I designed, feel free to withdraw from the competition. There's no need to lose your composure like this. Having said this, Du Zifeng found an empty seat in the waiting room and sat down. At the mention of withdrawing, the strength in Nia Longxiang's body instantly drained away. He thought of his 50,000 star coins. If he really did, as Du Zifeng suggested, wouldn't that money be wasted? This was something Nia Longxiang absolutely could not accept. Continuing the competition might still give him a chance to advance, and even if he failed, it wouldn't be solely his fault. After all, the mecha was built by the designer, the pilot, and the mecha were meant to complement each other. But if he withdrew, the audience would truly believe he was afraid of the competition, a noob. If he was branded with such a label, how could he continue in the mecha pilot industry? The mecha pilots restraining Nia Longxiang seemed to sense the waning force of his resistance and gradually released their hold. Taking advantage of the moment, Nia Longxiang pushed them away, clenched his fists, and stormed out of the waiting room, grinding his teeth. At that moment, the cheers of the live audience could already be heard. After the first round of duels, many spectators had decided to stay and watch the match live. Inside the waiting room, everyone turned their gaze to the schedule on the wall. 1900. The second round of official matches had begun. At that moment, a torrent of bullet comments rained down with messages flooding in every second. It's starting. Haha, do that godlike entrance pose again. I love watching that too, it was hilarious last time. Chu Sha, my wife, come out soon. Chi Ying. Who do you all think has the coolest mecha in this second round? Of course it's Chu Sha, my main wife. Go wife. What do you mean your wife? She's my wife. But Chu Sha doesn't belong to any of you horny idiots. I think Chu Sha is amazing and her mecha is beautiful, but the one that's definitely going to win is the Iron Ball. The person above is a heretic. Come on, let's burn him. That's right, the orthodox mecha is always the humanoid mecha. I will never accept any mecha other than humanoid ones. But don't you think the Iron Ball is so cute? Yeah, it's adorable. This is a mecha, a serious military mecha. If you want to act cute, get lost. So many toxic men here. Exactly. Chi, my wife, come out quickly. Ooh, I can't stand it alone. The entire livestream room was flooded with all kinds of arguments. At this moment, after a warm-up commentary on the main stage, the host began calling out names one by one, summoning the pairs. Mecha designer Fu Xinrue, Mecha pilot Qi Yingying. Mecha designer Li Downing, Mecha pilot Gu Tongxian. Mecha designer Huang Shichen, Mecha pilot Shinzei. Mecha designer Chu Sha, Mecha pilot Tang Weigang. Mecha designer Du Zifeng, Mecha pilot Nie Longxiang. With each call from the host, the pairs walked side by side onto the main stage. Each time a pair was called up, the host would ask them on the spot if they were confident of victory. All the pairs gave almost identical answers. They respected their opponents and praised their performance. Then they all expressed their belief that they could win and advance. When it was Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang's turn, the host asked them the same question as per usual. After your victory in the first round, I think the audience is also curious about your thoughts on the upcoming match. After all, your Iron Ball won the popularity vote in the first round. Do you have the confidence to take first place again? The host shouted passionately. The live audience, stirred up by the host, instantly ignited with emotion. A thunderous roar of cheers erupted simultaneously. The outstanding performance of the Iron Ball in the first round was evident to all. I think we might lose badly this time. Before the mecha designer could speak, as was customary, Nie Longxiang stepped ahead of Du Zifeng, leaned into the microphone the host was holding, and spoke. The emotions that had just been stirred in the arena were doused like a bucket of cold water, instantly cooling. The entire venue fell into dead silence. I also hope to advance, but if the mecha has fundamental flaws, then the pilot is helpless. At that moment, everyone's gaze was fixed on Nie Longxiang's face as he uttered these highly suggestive words. The host's originally warm smile instantly froze. This Nie Longxiang, when he did something, he really went all out, causing a huge scene right from the start. This left the host momentarily stunned, unsure how to respond to Nie Longxiang's words. Nie Longxiang, aren't you basically saying your own designer is incompetent? The competition hasn't even started and you're already shifting the blame. But this was a live broadcast. Saying such things in front of so many people with no regard for face. The host took several deep breaths. Those few seconds of silence were already her mistake. The atmosphere had gone cold. She couldn't let this mistake escalate further, or it would turn into a live broadcast disaster. The host turned her gaze to Du Zifeng. Designer Du, what are your thoughts on Pilot Nie's pessimistic words? Nothing much. Since Pilot Nie feels his abilities are limited, and he can't handle the mecha approved by the Heavenly Network, it's only natural for him to have some trepidation. It's just that. Since you know you're not capable, it's better to withdraw early. The moment Du Zifeng uttered these words, the barrage of comments exploded. Countless messages of fight flooded the screen. The audience, always eager for a spectacle, grew fervent as they witnessed the sharp confrontation between Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang, sensing the situation was about to escalate. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, haha. Boring, I want to see bloodshed. These two are still the same, as ever, never changing, haha. Haha, I think these two clowns are probably the biggest highlight so far. Hey, what do you think, who among them is incompetent? Of course it's Nie Longxiang. Didn't you see the look of dread on those designers' faces when they had to pick partners again? It was hilarious, haha. Really? I didn't watch the last match. Go watch it, it was incredibly entertaining, a real laugh riot. Go Chu Sha, my wife. Haha, this match is also exciting, a critical hit right from the start. As the audience buzzed with heated discussion, the host, leveraging years of accumulated skill, subtly guided the designers and mecha pilots to the preparation seats. Simultaneously, the main screen began randomly assigning opponents for this round. Du Zifeng and the other designers seated in the preparation area watched the large screen to see which mecha they would face. For designers, their work was essentially done, so their mindsets were relatively relaxed. Mecha designers usually work behind the scenes, and most are not accustomed to being thrust into the spotlight. If participating in the competition didn't boost their fame and significantly increase their earnings, they wouldn't even be here. The results on the big screen soon appeared, and Du Zifeng saw that his mecha was scheduled for the third match. His opponent was Huang Zichen's mecha. Du Zifeng turned his gaze towards Huang Shichen only to find Huang Shichen staring back at him. A hint of provocation lurked in his eyes. Du Zifeng did not avoid Huang Zichen's challenging stare, instead, maintaining a cold expression. This Huang Shichen had previously tried to buy the data for his iron ball for 2 million. Du Zifeng had not forgotten Huang Zichen's earlier mockery of his iron ball. Soon Huang Shichen also found the staring contest tedious and averted his gaze. Du Zifeng likewise shifted his attention elsewhere. For instance, to Nie Longxiang on the mecha pilot's bench. Unlike the other pilots, Nie Longxiang was sitting upright constantly, wiping his furry forehead with his arm. Nie Longxiang's heart was filled with panic. His opponent had been confirmed Shinzei. Nie Longxiang was well aware of his own abilities, and it was clear that Du Zifeng's mecha was specifically designed to target him. The Iron Blade Ball was extremely difficult. Nie Longxiang had practiced for a long time. Yet he still couldn't even get started. He felt he had already achieved something by merely getting the mecha's engine to start smoothly. The Iron Blade Ball was ultimately too complex and too difficult. It wasn't just the myriad of buttons inside, but also the various combination buttons. Even if Nie Longxiang tried to memorize it by rote, he couldn't learn it all in such a short time. Even if he only had to remember a quarter of it, he still couldn't manage. For the first time, Nie Longxiang felt that controlling a mecha was so difficult. The host did not introduce any further segments lest the audience's patience were thin. After announcing the start of the first match, he stepped down from the main stage. The first match featured Chu Sha, one of the major favorites. Her designed medium-sized mecha was unveiled to the audience on the big screen. A figure slowly emerged from the darkness. Numerous intricate and exquisite mecha details were revealed as the camera rapidly ascended from the bottom, allowing the audience to gradually understand what kind of mecha it was. It was actually a medium-sized mecha. The barrage of comments on the screen instantly exploded. Countless messages of medium-sized mecha frantically appeared. Everyone understood one thing: a medium-sized mecha was not something one person could build alone. Yet Chu Sha had achieved this. How could this not be astonishing? Although Chu Sha's mecha was medium-sized, its type was still a humanoid mecha. It was a female figure entirely blood-red. The long skirt spreading beneath the mecha made its entire posture resemble a blooming red lotus. The name of Chu Sha's mecha was also announced at the same time: Hell Lotus. With the reveal of the Hell Lotus, the big screen continued to showcase its opponent. It was a very compact mecha falling into the lightweight category. Compared to the massive Hell Lotus, this lightweight mecha was utterly insignificant. The subsequent match result was unsurprising. The Hell Lotus, with absolute crushing force, instantly obliterated the lightweight mecha. The audience in the arena erupted into cheers of joy. A thunderous round of applause erupted after the Hell Lotus defeated its opponent. Meanwhile, the viewers outside the arena continuously cast their votes for the Hell Lotus, even though the subsequent mechas had not yet been shown. Yet these viewers still chose to vote because the moment the Hell Lotus appeared, it became the mecha of their hearts. In a very short time, the Hell Lotus seized the top spot on the literary trial leaderboard, climbing rapidly. The faces of the mecha designers who appeared later turned somewhat grim. With Chu Sha's mecha's debut, their lightweight mechas were instantly reduced to mere foils. No matter how brilliantly their matches were fought, the audience wouldn't give them more votes. And indeed, that was reflected on the literary trial leaderboard. As more and more mechas were revealed to the audience, a slew of mediocre lightweight mechas failed to satisfy the viewers whose expectations had been raised. More and more votes were being concentrated on the Hell Lotus. 200,000, 400,000, 800,000. Each refresh pushed the ceiling of this literary trial higher. Remember, the top score in the first round for the Iron Ball was only 620,000. But now the Hell Lotus was approaching the million mark. The lightweight mechas that had been unveiled fared miserably. Not only did they fail to maintain their votes from the previous round, but they also kept breaking the lower limits of this competition. One got 623, another 518, another 396. Each score was lower than the last, and it was even difficult to reach 1,000. This caused those mecha designers' faces to turn ashen one by one. Chu Sha's mecha was too outstanding, or it made them look like fools. The mechas they designed seemed like garbage. Fortunately, the literary trial didn't decide everything. If they could win the martial trial, there was at least a chance for a tiebreaker. Therefore, although the mecha pilots partnered with those designers were also helpless, they gave their all to control their mechas, showcasing their abilities to defeat their opponents. But for Nie Longxiang, all of this was irrelevant. Time seemed to pass both quickly and slowly. Then a staff member reminded him that it was almost time for the Iron Blade Ball to take the stage. At that moment, Nie Longxiang began to feel stage fright. He was terrified of that mecha, which was for him incredibly complex. But there was no more time for Nie Longxiang to adjust his mindset. A reminder came through his earpiece from the staff. Mecha pilot of the Iron Ball Blade, proceed to the training pod backstage and prepare for your appearance. At that moment, the host, who had been waiting backstage, stepped onto the main stage, once more microphone in hand. Thank you to both mecha pilots for their splendid performance. Next, let us welcome the two mecha designers who will compete against each other. Zifeng. Zifeng, who was already prepared, stepped onto the main stage amidst the stirring background music. The audience erupted in cheers. After the first round of competition, many spectators had come to recognize this somewhat unconventional mecha designer. Moreover, his feud with Nie Longxiang had become one of the highlights of this competition. I believe many of you are impressed by the partnership between designer Du and pilot Nie. In the previous round, they delivered an outstanding performance and secured first place in the written test. We can hardly wait to see what kind of brilliant collision their renewed partnership will bring. Let us all look forward to it. Zifeng bowed to the audience, then silently retreated to the competitor's seat on the main stage. Following this, the host introduced Huang Shichen, another designer with a certain reputation in the design world. Soon Huang Shichen also arrived at the competitor's seat facing Zifeng. Zifeng, how dare you reject me? Huang Shichen glared at Zifeng with an unfriendly tone. Is that such a rare occurrence? Worth you specifically mentioning it? Zifeng wore a calm expression and offered Huang Shichen a faint smile. Seeing Zifeng's expression, Huang Zichen's anger reached its peak. If not for knowing the broadcast was live, he would have lost his temper on the spot. Humph. That piece of junk, the iron ball, could only have been designed by an equally trashy designer. All you have left now is a sharp tongue. Just wait and watch your mecha get blown to pieces by mine. I can hardly wait to savor the look on your face. Watch as your garbage is swept into the dust. Huang Shichen showered Zifeng with a torrent of sarcasm and insults. Heh, designer Huang, isn't it a bit too early to say such things? I wonder where you get the confidence that your mecha can destroy mine. It's still uncertain whose mecha is the real trash. Zifeng maintained his composed demeanor, unperturbed by Huang Zichen's provocations. Humph, just wait and see. Huang Shichen let out a cold snort. At that moment, a wave of enthusiastic cheers rose from the audience. On the main screen, Huang Zichen's mecha began to be displayed. From a perspective similar to the Death Red Lotus, the mecha's massive frame was gradually revealed. It was also a medium-sized mecha. The sight elicited cheers from the onlooking audience. Since the appearance of the Death Red Lotus, this was another medium-sized mecha. Its entire body was covered in large, tightly interlocked composite armor with thick and sturdy limbs. Through some gaps in the armor, dense networks of pipes and cables could be seen inside. It inexplicably combined a sense of heft with intricate detail. Subtitles began to appear on the main screen. This medium-sized humanoid mecha was named the Immortal Titan. Zifeng watched the Immortal Titan, a faint smile curling at the corner of his mouth. The mecha looked impressive, but in this world nothing was truly immortal. Soon the screen went dark again, concealing the Immortal Titan. A sleek dark silhouette gradually emerged in the frame. Completely different from the other mechas, this smooth curved armor seemed somewhat oversized. The camera kept pulling back, yet it seemed as if it hadn't moved at all, if not for the subtle differences in light and shadow revealing a slight change. One might have thought the camera had never shifted. Gradually, everyone confirmed that this was an Iron Ball mecha, and it was another medium-sized mecha. At that moment, the barrage of comments was filled with identical messages. The Iron Ball. But the viewers who had been densely spamming Iron Ball just a second ago noticed something else seemed to be mounted on top of its equally massive head. A long blade half the size of its body stood erect above its head. The entire barrage instantly shifted from the Iron Ball. 2. Subtitles appeared on the screen again. Iron Ball blade. Thighs. An iron ball with a long blade. What a bizarre design. I'm dying of laughter. Confirmed, the mecha designer is just stealing netizens' ideas online. Haha. Say what you will, this mecha has a certain comical charm. I declare this is heresy. How can a mecha not be humanoid? Haha, it's actually quite cute. Isn't this just the Iron Ball? Is the designer that lazy? Or is this competition not that serious? You up there, do you even understand mechas? This Iron Ball blade is a completely different mecha from the Iron Ball. Which moron doesn't know the fundamental difference between a medium mecha and a light mecha? You up there, if you don't get it, shut up. Oh, this mecha is so cute. All kinds of comments poured in. It was no less spectacular than the debut of the Death Red Lotus. Meanwhile, backstage, Nie Longxiang sat nervously in the training pod, staring at the intimidating array of buttons around him. He took deep breaths repeatedly, but it did little to ease his anxiety. Soon the Iron Ball blade and the Immortal Titan were simultaneously deployed to a location on the planet. After the massive dust settled, both medium-sized mechas emitted the glow of their startup sequences. However, a second later, the startup glow of the Iron Ball blade flickered and died. Meanwhile, the Immortal Titan had been successfully activated by its pilot Shinzei. The Immortal Titan's massive right hand grasped the heavy hammer beside it, its sole weapon. The enormous hammerhead was nearly as thick as the Immortal Titan's mechanical thigh. The Immortal Titan did not rush to lift the hammer. Instead, it dragged it slowly, carving a deep furrow in the ground as it advanced towards the Iron Ball blade. The startup glow of the Iron Ball blade flickered on repeatedly, only to fade away the next moment. The Iron Ball blade's strange behavior left everyone stunned. Is this A startup failure. Goodness, whose fault is it? It must be the pilot's. It's not like you're piloting it. How can you jump to conclusions? A mecha failing to start is definitely the designer's problem. The immortal titan is almost here. Is the iron ball going to get smashed to pieces by that hammer? I think it's possible. Geez, we finally get a medium versus medium mecha showdown, and it ends like this. No fun at all. Exactly. Everyone stop posting, you're ruining my view of the match. You idiot up there, can't you just mute it yourself? Who are you calling an idiot? I'm calling you idiot. Alright, stop arguing and focus on the match. At that moment, the immortal titan slowly raised its heavy hammer, holding it horizontally in its grip. Through the ceaselessly pulsing energy along the hammer, one could sense the immense weight straining the immortal titan's arm. The iron ball blade remained completely unchanged, still motionless. Its startup glow merely flickered on and off time and again. The immortal titan now stood before the iron ball blade, gradually raising its heavy hammer high into the air. Even viewers watching the live broadcast on the main screen could feel the terrifying weight it bore. All the joints and cables of the immortal titan sparked with electrical flashes under the strain. At that moment, the immortal titan had lifted the heavy hammer above its head. It brought it down with tremendous force upon the iron ball blade before it. At this critical juncture, Nie Longxiang, drenched in sweat, stared at the terrifying scene unfolding on the screen. Yet the mecha he was piloting refused to start as he commanded. The live broadcast frequently cut to the faces of Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang. Unlike Nie's frantic fumbling attempts, Du Zifeng remained utterly composed. He watched the large screen with keen interest as his creation, the iron ball blade, was about to be hammered by the immortal titan. His demeanor suggested that the immortal titan was his own design. Nie Longxiang, his face etched with anxiety, watched the ever-growing hammer on the screen, flailing his limbs. In that moment, he completely forgot he was not actually inside the iron ball blade. The oppressive presence of the immortal titan was so overwhelming that Nie Longxiang instinctively felt he had to do something, or his own life would be destroyed along with the iron ball blade. However, his struggles were futile. The iron ball blade only emitted the sound of a stalled engine. Boom! The armor-piercing hammer, devoid of any mercy, slammed heavily into the iron ball blade under everyone's gaze. The immense force generated a terrifying ring of fire upon impact. The powerful sonic boom instantly destroyed over a dozen broadcast spheres, forcing the cameras to switch from close-ups to long shots. The next second, many were stunned by the sight. The iron ball blade was virtually unscathed. Meanwhile, the immortal titan staggered backward, struggling to hold its hammer, its unsteady steps kicking up clouds of dust. Whoa! It actually withstood that. So incredible. Such a heavy blow, and only some paint chipped off. Terrifying. Can material strength really reach this level? Are we witnessing history? Oh, what a magnificent strike. As the barrage of comments expressed endless amazement. Shenzhe, piloting the mecha, had already stabilized the immortal titan. Though a skilled mecha pilot himself, the operation of a medium-sized mecha demanded far more expertise. Even he found it challenging, unable to maneuver the immortal titan with the same agility as a light mecha. Shenzhe gazed at the unharmed iron ball blade, a sense of despair creeping in. That single strike had already caused critical damage indicators to flash yellow on many parts of the immortal titan. Some parts even showed red warnings. Shenzhe estimated the immortal titan could only manage 2 more strikes. If it couldn't breach the iron ball blade's armor by then, the immortal titan would lose all mobility due to its own damage, forcing it to withdraw from the match and concede defeat. Nie Longxiang, looking at the intact cockpit around him, finally let out a long sigh of relief. Only then did he remember he wasn't inside the iron ball blade, but in the training pod at the main venue, safe from harm. With this realization, Nie Longxiang finally regained his composure, though the iron ball blade still refused to start as he wished. The mecha designers closely following the duel began to piece things together. That pilot Nie Longxiang was indeed, as Du Zifeng had claimed, utterly incompetent. In the previous display, the iron ball blade had proven itself an exceptional medium mecha. It had withstood a full-powered strike from another medium mecha without flinching, marking it as a formidable machine. Such resilience indicated that the designer's mastery of material science had reached an astonishing level. Putting themselves in his shoes, many mecha designers felt a surge of excitement, imagining the designs they could realize with such materials, designs previously impossible due to material constraints. Their gazes repeatedly shifted to Du Zifeng. Huang Shichen, however, remained dismissive, snorting coldly. Yet a flicker of unease began to stir within him. Could his immortal titan truly be defeated by the iron ball blade? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Huang Shichen screamed inwardly. Meanwhile, more and more viewers began to acknowledge Du Zifeng's design prowess and question Nie Longxiang. The iron ball blade's strength was beyond doubt after the immortal titan's full-force strike. Yet Nie Longxiang, with such an excellent medium mecha at his disposal, had failed to start it from the beginning. The earlier debate between Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang now had a clear verdict. This pilot Nia is so bad. Indeed. We concur. Yes, truly terrible. It's been so long, and he still can't start the mecha. I want to see the iron ball blade in motion with its blade on top. It must be the coolest ball among mechas. Haha, me too. Pilot Shen is already piloting the immortal titan smoothly, so why can't Nia Longxiang? It seems designer Du was right to blame him. Exactly, this pilot Nia is hopelessly incompetent. At that moment, the immortal titan dragging its armor-piercing hammer once again stood before the iron ball blade. The hammer was raised high once more, but this time sparks flew more violently, and harsh grating sounds emanated from the immortal titan's joints. Clearly, this massive hammer was a terrible burden for the immortal titan. The material strength of its joints fell far short of the required standard. If only it could use the same material as the iron ball blade, it might unleash the immortal titan's true potential. Learning from the first strike, all broadcast spheres kept a distance of over 300 meters from the two behemoths. All spheres adjusted their focus, zooming in from afar to capture the battle from every angle without blind spots. Boom. A nearly identical thunderous crash echoed again. The very air seemed to warp, sending an invisible shockwave rippling outward from the point of impact. The fiery collision between hammer and sphere once again sparked dazzling golden light, scattering like fireworks. The iron ball blade remained unscathed, standing firm. Inside the cockpit, Nia Longxiang's heart was now as calm as a still lake. He too had realized that the immortal titan, though imposing, couldn't even breach the iron ball blade's defenses. Yet out of habit, he continued attempting to start the iron ball blade, following the instructions the technician had given him. Others had also come to expect this outcome, certain the immortal titan couldn't penetrate the iron ball blade's armor. And so it proved. This time the immortal titan didn't stumble as it had before. It merely stepped back slightly before pilot Shen Zhe steadied it. The immortal titan stood before the iron ball blade, hammer in hand. But the next moment, the iron ball blade startup lights no longer flickered out, its engine roared to life. The activated iron ball blade began to rotate slowly, and the long blade that had remained upright due to inactivity moved with the sphere for the first time. In that unremarkable motion, it sliced the immortal titan diagonally from shoulder to base, cut through the ground, and circled back to the top. The entire process was as effortless as cutting tofu with a knife. Everyone was stunned. The immortal titan had been defeated so easily. Everyone stared in disbelief at the scene before them. On the vast silver screen, the victory icon appeared as promised, definitively confirming the triumph of Iron Ball Blade. A barrage of question marks flooded the screen. Countless viewers voiced their confusion. The Iron Ball Blade, which had never started smoothly before, had actually activated successfully in that moment and obliterated the immortal titan in a single strike. Many were caught off guard. The contrast was simply immense. Congratulations to Iron Ball Blade for winning this match. The host was momentarily stunned, but after the results appeared on the big screen, he used his professional composure to confirm the outcome to everyone. We won. Wow. Oh. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? One strike, and the immortal titan was destroyed. If Iron Ball Blade had started smoothly from the beginning, would the titan even have had a chance to act? If this mech pilot wasn't Nia Longxiang, but any other pilot, I think Iron Ball Blade could have shown its terrifying strength. Like a knife through butter, so incredibly smooth. What material is Iron Ball Blade made of? Don't you think Iron Ball Blade looks cute? That blade on its head seems like an antenna. Haha, it really does. While many viewers in the live stream chatted freely, Iron Ball Blade's ranking on the civil examination list was steadily climbing. It surged to second place, though it still lagged far behind the first place Death Red Lotus, which had nearly 1 million votes. But it crushed all Mechs below third place. The Immortal Titan, which had fallen from second to third, had initially garnered nearly 300,000 votes due to its striking design. Yet after being defeated by Iron Ball Blade, its upward momentum was abruptly halted. Iron Ball Blade overtook it, smoothly surpassing its vote count. It had now broken past 400,000 votes, approaching the 500,000 mark. At that moment on the main stage, a door swung open and a figure emerged. It was Nia Longxiang. Having just returned from the backstage training pod to the front stage, he was invited to the host side. Everyone present, whether audience members, mech pilots, or designers, began whispering among themselves at the sight of Nia Longxiang. They had already formed their judgment of the pilot Nia Longxiang. Clearly, Iron Ball Blade was an impressive mech. Yet with such an excellent mech, Nia Longxiang had performed abysmally in the match. There was clearly something wrong with this pilot. Nia Longxiang's expression was grim. He was well aware of his own performance. This fluke victory made it hard for him to deflect blame or make excuses. Nia Longxiang could clearly notice the designers and pilots seated in the preparation area casting peculiar glances his way. While the audience in the stands could only look at him with suspicion, these knowledgeable individuals understood that Iron Ball Blade's performance could only be attributed to the pilot's shortcomings. Pilot Nia, how do you feel about this victory over such a formidable opponent? the host asked following the standard winner's interview. Nie Longxiang first swept his gaze across the audience staring at him, then took a deep breath. Though it was hard to shift the blame and fool the experts, couldn't he at least deceive the people before him? In that instant, Nie Longxiang made up his mind to throw all caution to the wind. I didn't perform well this time. The host, hearing Nie Longxiang's first words, relaxed slightly. That was a decent start. But the next word made the host's heart tighten. Was Nie Longxiang about to make another shocking statement? I think Iron Ball Blade is nothing but a piece of junk mech, just like the old Iron Ball. And this Iron Ball Blade is even more absurd. So absurd that I doubt even every pilot here could handle this junk mech. Over 200 control buttons, ridiculously complicated input procedures, and countless combination commands. I'm genuinely curious. What kind of pilot could actually master this mech? The moment these words were spoken, the venue erupted in uproar. The audience, faced with Nie Longxiang's confident expression, began to waver. Just moments ago, they had believed the pilot was to blame. But now his resolute demeanor made them uncertain. Nie Longxiang's attitude showed no signs of deceit. Had they misunderstood Nie Longxiang? Was there something fundamentally wrong with Iron Ball Blade itself? I've said it before, a mech's performance can't be judged by one factor alone. The synergy between mech and pilot is crucial. But now, seeing this Iron Ball Blade, I understand that if a mech is garbage, even the most skilled pilot is utterly helpless. Even if it's a medium mech. Even if it has many strengths. But with such poor controllability, it's an unmanageable piece of junk. As its designer, Du Zifeng, did you design this junk mech just to spite me? Nie Longxiang's gaze was as sharp as a blade fixed directly on Du Zifeng. Everyone witnessing this spectacle was stunned. Had the two completely fallen out? They were openly tearing into each other during a live broadcast. Shenzhe, who had just exited the training pod, was equally taken aback. As a seasoned pilot, he knew one thing well: never offend a mech designer. Especially someone like Du Zifeng, a promising newcomer in mech design. In this era of peace within the small circle of mech pilots, offending a designer could mean never piloting a mech again. Thus, Shenzhe never questioned a designer's work, no matter how absurd the mech design. Instead, he always maintained a respectful attitude, striving to adapt to the mech's design rather than expecting the designer to adapt to him. A designer could survive without piloting a mech, but a pilot couldn't survive without one. They were the bread and butter, the key to survival. For a designer, a failed design didn't affect their next project. But for a pilot, being abandoned by multiple designers meant never piloting a mech again. No designer would entrust their painstakingly crafted mech to a pilot like Nie Longxiang. Poor skill was one thing, but a public fallout was another. That was a matter of attitude. Other designers, watching Nie Longxiang on the main stage, brazenly accusing Du Zifeng and making excuses for his own incompetence. This series of actions sealed his fate in their minds. Even if they were desperate for pilots, they would never employ someone like him. If he could fall out with Du Zifeng, what about them? If he fell out with them and made it public, wouldn't their own reputations be at stake? 2 minutes ago, as the victory subtitle flashed across the large screen, Du Zifeng turned his gaze toward Huang Shichen. Huang Zichen's face was dark with fury, his hands clenched so tightly that veins bulged, clearly seething with rage. Amused, Du Zifeng decided to rub salt into Huang Zichen's wounds. Haha, look down on me. Even a trash mecha can crush you. Du Zifeng taunted Huang Shichen with a smirk. Huang Shichen, however, acted as if he neither saw nor heard, turning his head away. Huang Zichen's ostrich-like demeanor only fueled Du Zifeng's delight. Just then, Nie Longxiang on the stage unleashed a series of shocking declarations. Du Zifeng's smile gradually faded. Nie Longxiang, do you even know who truly won this match for you? Du Zifeng, Grand Designer, since you insist your mecha is flawless. Let me ask you one thing. Do you dare pilot the garbage mecha you designed yourself? Du Zifeng froze for a moment at Nie Longxiang's words. A designer piloting their own creation. In this history, there had been such designers before. But it required certain physical conditions. And given his current body, it wasn't entirely impossible. As Du Zifeng fell silent, Nie Longxiang rejoiced inwardly. It seemed Du Zifeng was backing down. With that thought, Nie Longxiang intensified his provocation. Du Zifeng, are you scared? Worried? Everyone will see your true colors. Fine. Before Nie Longxiang could finish, Du Zifeng cut him off. He nodded to Nie Longxiang in agreement. Then, under everyone's gaze, he slowly rose to his feet and walked toward the center of the stage. Nie Longxiang, this time I'll let you see for yourself what kind of mecha I truly designed. The host obligingly handed the microphone to Du Zifeng. Also, I apologize to the audience for delaying the competition with my personal matters. This demonstration won't take long. With graceful composure, Du Zifeng finished speaking and turned toward the training pod backstage. At that moment, whether it was the live audience, the streaming viewers, or the mecha designers and pilots, everyone was stunned. A mecha designer personally stepping up to pilot a mecha, and a medium-sized one at that, was virtually unheard of. Countless comments rained down like a torrential downpour. It wasn't that no mecha designer had ever piloted a mecha, but typically even if they could it was only light mechas. After all, a designer's frail physique couldn't support such an endeavor. If everyone could pilot mechas, what need would there be for dedicated pilots? Yet Du Zifeng was now heading to pilot a medium mecha far more complex than a light one. The difficulty was on an entirely different level. Du Zifeng didn't care what others thought. He only knew one thing. Yunya Longxiang claimed my mecha is trash. Is the iron ball blade hard to pilot? Now let everyone see who's truly spouting nonsense. Let irrefutable facts shatter those slanderous rumors. Most importantly, he would slap Nia Longxiang's face hard. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Du Zifeng sat down in the training pod. His movements were swift and fluid, and remarkably skilled, nothing like a novice. On the large screen, the iron ball blade appeared once more. With Nia Longxiang's public outburst, the all-frequency mecha design competition's popularity skyrocketed. Many who hadn't paid attention to the competition were now drawn in to watch the spectacle. Such fresh drama was irresistible. The competition committee naturally seized this opportunity, even postponing the next match to focus the cameras on Du Zifeng. At that moment, the iron ball blade on the massive screen was activated. Unlike Nia Longxiang's clumsy attempts, the startup glow illuminated the mecha in sequence. Inside the cockpit, Du Zifeng's hands and feet moved in perfect coordination, pressing the necessary buttons with practiced ease. Every button seemed etched into his memory. In less than 20 seconds, the massive medium mecha was fully operational. The engine's roar suddenly crescendoed in an orderly rhythm. The iron ball blade began to spin rapidly, but in a completely different manner from Nia Longxiang's attempt, rotating along its latitudinal axis. The blade atop its head resembling a quirky antenna spun along with it. Then the iron ball blade began adjusting the blade's angle in various directions. Effortlessly precise, it struck wherever it aimed. Dissatisfied with mere display, the iron ball blade suddenly shifted to longitudinal rotation. The blade plunged into the ground, sending debris and dust flying as it carved deep, jagged trenches across the surface. As its spin accelerated, the iron ball blade rapidly burrowed a pit beneath itself, sinking deeper and deeper. Within seconds, the mecha vanished from sight, leaving only swirling dust and a dark, gaping hole. The next moment, the iron ball blade burst forth from the earth, its high-speed rotation making it resemble a planet encircled by rings. Swift and unstoppable. Wherever it passed, nothing remained. Whether soaring through the sky or burrowing underground, Du Zifeng demonstrated the iron ball blade's exceptional performance with seamless grace. The seemingly superfluous blade on the iron ball blade granted it far more operational modes than the standard iron ball. The original iron ball's range was entirely limited by terrain. But the iron ball blade had no such constraints. It could shatter any obstacle in its path. Everyone marveled at the mecha's deployment methods, especially the mecha designers who were deeply moved. The iron ball blade's displayed capabilities, its attack patterns, defense, and agility, all proclaimed it an exceptionally outstanding mecha. The pilots, meanwhile, were awestruck as they observed Du Zifeng's control technique. The dense array of buttons inside the iron ball blade hinted at its immense complexity. Yet Du Zifeng mastered them all, every movement executed with fluid precision. As if honed through countless hours of practice, he knew the iron ball blade's every operation by heart. And as Du Zifeng demonstrated his control so openly, sharp-eyed pilots gradually sensed a familiar quality. A familiarity rooted in a standard they had internalized since their earliest days of learning to pilot. It's the standard mecha operation manual, a pilot couldn't help blurting out. This is the most textbook mecha control procedure. Could it be? This mecha was built entirely according to the standard operation manual. How is that possible? The pilot muttered to himself in disbelief. Other mecha pilots were also staring at the figure on the giant screen in utter awe. The significance of this mecha had transcended its inherent performance. It could become a training mecha for newcomers, just like Model Vanguard 1. Moreover, it was an epic-making intermediate mecha trainer. I want to pilot it. Shunzai couldn't help murmuring to himself. He gazed at the iron ball blade on the screen, his heart stirred with desire. Although Shenzei was an accomplished mecha pilot himself, he understood that his current abilities were still somewhat strained when it came to handling a medium-sized mecha. Being able to skillfully control such a mecha which adhered to the standards of the Mecha Operation Manual would provide invaluable assistance in comprehending medium-sized mechas on a personal level. No mecha pilot could resist such a temptation. Hearing these words, the other pilots felt a similar surge of excitement, their gazes toward Du Zifeng now burning with fervor. Meanwhile, the audience witnessing Du Zifeng's agile maneuvers felt a stark contrast. They had seen Nia Longxiang's piloting. The image of him sweating profusely and flailing helplessly was still fresh in their minds. It was the complete opposite of Du Zifeng's grace and dexterity. Is this the true power of the iron ball blade? Incredible. Its movements are so fluid and seamless. I almost have the illusion that this isn't a medium-sized mecha at all. Pilot Nia is worlds apart from him. There's no excuse, this Nia Longxiang is both incompetent and loud, skilled at everything except piloting. What a disgusting pilot. So pathetic yet he shouts so loudly, does he really think volume equals righteousness? Don't you think Designer Du is really handsome? Yes, he has such an air of grace. The control of this iron ball blade seems somewhat familiar. You feel it too. I thought it was just my imagination, there must be a deeper meaning behind the arrangement of all those buttons. Do you think it follows the standard of that Mecha operation manual? Oh, that's it. What are you all talking about? Chusha, my darling. Although the livestream viewers didn't understand Mecha piloting, the contrast between Du Zifeng and Nia Longxiang was too stark. Even viewers completely ignorant of mechas could discern the gap between the two. The same mecha yet with different pilots. Displayed entirely different forms. At that moment Du Zifeng had already slowed down and the blade of the iron ball blade had returned to its place. Erected upright, it truly resembled a single strand of hair, as the audience had remarked. Somehow it made the iron ball blade look like an adorable mascot. The moment the iron ball blade stopped, Chu Sha's estimation of Du Zifeng rose another notch. In a sense, the iron ball blade was truly remarkable. It had achieved perfection in certain aspects. Moreover, she could never have imagined that the designer of this mecha could also pilot such a medium-sized mecha so adeptly. He was both an outstanding mecha designer and an excellent mecha pilot. Chu Sha wondered just how many more surprises Du Zifeng could bring her. But at this moment, the person most shaken was undoubtedly Nia Longxiang. Nia Longxiang knew full well the difficulty of piloting the iron ball blade, otherwise he wouldn't have confronted Du Zifeng on the spot. Yet now, watching Du Zifeng's flawless performance on the giant screen, his face turned ashen. And the audience from any perspective now realized just how amateurish he had been just moments ago. Only minutes earlier he had been foolishly mocking such a pilot. Yes, a pilot. In Nia Longxiang's eyes now, the skill Du Zifeng had displayed clearly marked him as a true mecha pilot. Nia Longxiang deeply regretted his actions. Had he known Du Zifeng possessed such skill, he would never have dared to confront him publicly. Du Zifeng had now left the training pod and returned to the front stage. A round of enthusiastic applause erupted from the audience. Clearly the skill Du Zifeng had just demonstrated had proven to them who the truly shameless one was. Amidst the applause, Du Zifeng bowed deeply to all the spectators. The host then approached Du Zifeng. Thank you, Designer Du, for that impromptu performance. The host refrained from mentioning Nia Longxiang, subtly glossing over the earlier conflict between them, recharacterizing Du Zifeng's piloting of the iron ball blade as a spontaneous demonstration. Designer Du, you've truly amazed many people tonight, including me, of course. The host's words sparked another wave of enthusiastic applause. As the applause subsided, the host continued. Designer Du, everyone knows you are a mecha designer. But just now you showcased equally masterful piloting skills to the audience. And not just any ordinary mecha, but a medium-sized one which presents certain challenges. I'm very curious. How did you achieve this? Was your previous profession perhaps that of a mecha pilot? As he asked, the host handed a microphone to Du Zifeng. Du Zifeng took it, lowered his head, and thought for a moment. I'm not really an exceptional mecha pilot, I'm just a mecha designer. As for why I could pilot the iron ball blade so smoothly, perhaps it's simply because I designed it. I understand every part of the iron ball blade. I know its strengths and its weaknesses. In my eyes, it is a uniquely outstanding mecha. This response from Du Zifeng drew another round of enthusiastic applause. Occasionally shouts of iron ball blade could be heard among the crowd. Seeing this, Du Zifeng could only bow once more to the fervent audience. Indeed. The iron ball blade's performance just now fully deserves Designer Du's words. It truly is an exceptional mecha. What do you think, Pilot Nia? The host suddenly shifted the topic, drawing everyone's attention to Nia Longxiang, who was still on the main stage. When Du Zifeng had displayed his astonishing piloting skills, Nia Longxiang had wanted to sneak away from the main stage. However, he could feel several live streaming spheres hovering around him, following his every move. At that moment, Nia Longxiang found himself in a dilemma. If he stayed, he would only be humiliated further. But slipping away unnoticed was impossible. Initially, Nia Longxiang had believed everything was under his control. Logically, a mecha designer who could pilot a mecha was 1 in 10,000. And a mecha designer capable of piloting a medium-sized mecha was even rarer. Even among mecha pilots, those who could handle medium-sized mechas were few. But Nia Longxiang had never expected Du Zifeng to be such a rare polymath, not only designing a medium-sized mecha, but incredibly piloting the very mecha he had designed. Well, Nia Longxiang stammered as he looked at the microphone the host held to his lips. His mind raced frantically. He desperately sought another excuse to bluff his way through. At this very moment, the literary trial ranking of the iron ball blade was steadily climbing. A vast number of spectators were casting their votes for the iron ball blade, for no other reason than Du Zifeng, who stood at the center of the stage. It was precisely because of Du Zifeng's maneuvers that they had glimpsed the potential of this mecha, the iron ball blade. Meanwhile, Nie Longxiang, who had been stammering all along, finally opened his mouth. I. There's nothing to say. Nie Longxiang's face flushed crimson as he slowly squeezed out these two sentences. He could sense that at that moment countless gazes from all around were fixed upon him. Nie Longxiang simply refused to admit he was wrong. Even though everyone knew he was wrong, Nie Longxiang shoved aside the microphone the host had thrust in front of him. He turned and strode quickly toward the backstage. Nie Longxiang couldn't bear to stay in this place for even a single second longer. The moment his face turned into the shadow of the backlight, he clenched his teeth in fury. In his mind, he endlessly vented abusive curses at Du Zifeng. This grudge Nie Longxiang would remember. The host, witnessing this, quickly composed himself as well. Once again, thank you for designer Dust's brilliant performance. Let us welcome the next pair of contestants to the stage. Guided by the host's words, Du Zifeng stepped down from the main stage and returned to the preparation seat. As soon as he found a spot to sit, a crowd of mecha designers surrounded him. A flood of questions they were eager to ask came pouring in. Designer Du, how exactly did you achieve the material strength of the Iron Ball Blade mecha? Designer Du was the control design inside the Iron Ball Blade, truly based on the standard mecha control manual. You all stop crowding and give Designer Du some space. One designer, unable to squeeze close to Du Zifeng, couldn't help but complain. And me. Designer Du, regarding the antenna on top of the Iron Ball Blade, how did you ensure the material strength during high-speed rotation? A rather petite female designer with long twin tails tied up stretched her arm high. She hopped up and down, striving to face Du Zifeng and pose her question. Her twin tails bounced along with her movements. Designer Du, what level of material strength is required for a medium-sized mecha to prevent its own frame from deforming under its own weight? Faced with such an enthusiastic scene, Du Zifeng managed a wry smile. He hadn't expected that after just dealing with the fervent live audience. He now faced an even more passionate crowd. Thank you, but regarding the material parameters of the mecha, these involve contracts with the Celestial Network, so I'm unable to share them with everyone. Du Zifeng, who had barely sat down for a moment, had to rise again. He gave a concise answer to each question posed. Seeing that they could extract no more interesting information from Du Zifeng, the other designers had no choice but to leave disappointed. After all, they themselves weren't familiar with Du Zifeng. They were merely nodding acquaintances. Still, they weren't disheartened. It was, after all, a shot in the dark, like beating a tree to see if any fruit would fall. If Du Zifeng had been willing to tell them, it would have been a win-win. His refusal wouldn't affect them either. A few minutes later, the designers dispersed, returning to their original spots. They shifted their attention back to the two teams currently showcasing their mechas on stage. Just then, Chu Sha suddenly rose and slowly walked to the empty seat beside Du Zifeng, signaling him with her eyes. Could she sit down? Clearly, Chu Sha had something to say. Du Zifeng glanced at the seat beside him and nodded, granting Chu Sha's request. The preparation area was composed of small sofa sets with coffee tables. Each small coffee table was paired with 2 or 3 small sofas, facilitating private conversations between designers. When the other designers saw Chu Sha sit next to Du Zifeng, they couldn't help but pull their attention back from the arena once more. They pricked up their ears, clearly intrigued by what Chu Sha was about to discuss. Designer Du, I truly believe the Iron Ball Blade you piloted is a mecha that could change the landscape of medium-sized mechas. It has the potential to become a benchmark for medium-sized mechas, just like Vanguard 1 is for light mechas, or even surpass Vanguard 1. Of that I have no doubt. Chu Sha sat gracefully across from Du Zifeng. She spoke earnestly about the excellence of the Iron Ball Blade. You flatter me. Designer Chu, your praise is too generous. The Iron Ball Blade hardly deserves such high acclaim. Du Zifeng felt no trace of arrogance from Chu Sha's compliments. He held his own set of standards for the Iron Ball Blade in his mind. And he was well aware of the Iron Ball Blade's true flaws. Within the confines of this design competition, it might appear outstanding and powerful, seemingly capable of soaring to the heavens and burrowing into the earth with no limits to its abilities. In truth, it was merely a large-scale toy. For the Iron Ball Blade's fatal flaw was also its greatest strength, the material. This material could not withstand environmental changes. All the abilities it currently displayed were based on that specific material Du Zifeng had adapted to the local conditions. And that material could only exhibit such formidable strength within the environment of this planet. Once the environment changed, that strength would inevitably change as well. A mecha that couldn't adapt to all environments, all terrains, and all climates could hardly be called excellent. Thus, the Iron Ball Blade was ultimately a mecha with limited practical combat capability. Du Zifeng understood clearly. The true merit of the Iron Ball Blade lay in its control system. In that cockpit, the control system composed of nearly 200 buttons. This control system was built entirely according to the standard mecha control manual. A medium-sized mecha that could be used to practice standard mecha control. That was the Iron Ball Blade's greatest advantage. When the other designers heard Chu Sha's praise of the Iron Ball Blade, they showed little reaction. Inwardly, they grumbled that this beautiful designer was taking too long to get to the point. No designer, do you and I both know what the iron ball blade truly deserves attention for? Your iron ball blade is worthy of my evaluation. Designer, do the reason I came this time is to ask you a question. Are you interested in taking up the position of design director in the Mecha RD department of our StarTech group? The moment Chu Sha said this, the designers who had been straining their ears were instantly stunned. She was actually poaching talent right here, and for the StarTech group no less. One must know that the StarTech group was a colossal enterprise. With a wide range of business operations, it was a megacorporation controlling the livelihood and military industries of multiple star systems. To secure a position there even as a mere ordinary employee, its benefits were enough to make others envious. Chu Sha looked at Du Zifeng seriously. As early as when the iron ball had appeared, Chu Sha had already noticed Du Zifeng's potential. After he unveiled the iron ball blade, she became even more certain of this potential. Having witnessed Du Zifeng pilot the iron ball blade with such ease, she could no longer contain herself in her heart. For such a talented young man, Chu Sha was genuinely moved by a desire to cherish his abilities. Du Zifeng was taken aback. Was this an invitation? Designer Du. Chu Sha called out again, noticing his lack of response. Thank you for your interest, but I must decline. Du Zifeng shook his head, choosing to refuse Chu Sha. His ambition was immense. His goal was to become the foremost mecha designer. Becoming an employee was not what he desired. No matter how formidable the corporation, working for others was still just that. I see. Here's my business card. If you ever change your mind, feel free to contact me. Chu Sha was visibly startled by his refusal, yet she still produced a card and slid it across to Du Zifeng. Despite being rejected on the spot, Chu Sha maintained her composure. I'll give it serious consideration. Du Zifeng picked up the card, which simply bore her name and phone number. The card's design was simple and elegant. Seeing him accept it, Chu Sha rose and returned to her seat. The subsequent matches proceeded without much incident. No other designer presented a medium-sized mecha. The outcomes largely reflected the audience's assessment of each designer's capabilities. The top of the written examination rankings was no longer held by Du Zifeng and Nie Longxiang's iron ball blade. The first place was claimed by Chu Sha's Hell Lotus. It secured the top spot with approximately 1.2 million votes. The iron ball blade came second with around 810,000 votes. Third place went to Huang Zaiqin's Immortal Titan. Thus, despite losing to Du Zifeng, his Immortal Titan's strong performance in the written rankings ensured his advancement. He could still proceed to the next round. At this moment, the host re-entered the main arena. After reciting a string of preliminary advertisements, the host invited all winning designers and mecha pilots back onto the stage. Du Zifeng followed the crowd, once again standing under the spotlight. The host then directed everyone's attention to the large screen behind them. The faces of each designer began to appear one by one. They were displayed starting from the lowest-ranked competitor moving forward. Du Zifeng saw his own face, followed immediately by Chu Sha, the top scorer of this round. Du Zifeng understood this was the start of the regrouping process for the third round. He couldn't help but glance towards the row of mecha pilots. A venomous gaze was fixed on him. It was Nie Longxiang. A sense of foreboding crept into Du Zifeng's heart. Was he going to be paired with that man again? If the committee made such a foolish decision again, Du Zifeng would no longer tolerate them. He would choose to withdraw immediately. This competition had already showcased his abilities, fulfilling his goal of gaining recognition. He had nothing left to lose. On the large screen, the faces of the mecha pilots soon appeared in sequence. Then only the designers' portraits remained. The pilots' portraits began to cycle rapidly beneath the designers. Please, designer Chu, say stop. The host instructed, having learned from the previous awkward silence to designate a leader. All designers stared intently at their own portraits. A single shared worry crossed their minds. Would Nie Longxiang become their partner? Having such an incompetent pilot would be a nightmare. Chu Sha gracefully took the offered microphone, waited a few seconds, and said stop. As her clear voice fell, the spinning portraits began to lock in one by one. The results were revealed starting from the bottom. The lowest-ranked female designer, upon seeing her assigned pilot was not Nie Longxiang, let out a silent cheer of yes. Realizing she was on the main stage under the watchful eyes of thousands, she awkwardly suppressed her glee. The portraits continued to settle. Each designer who confirmed their partner looked visibly relieved. The heavyweight pilot Nie Longxiang had yet to appear. Watching the remaining 10 slots, Du Zifeng grew increasingly convinced the committee was out to get him. Soon 5 more pairs were confirmed. Still no Nie Longxiang. Only the top 5 designers remained. They exchanged uneasy glances, none wanting to be stuck with him. Du Zifeng was already preparing himself. If the committee dared to pair him with Nie Longxiang again, he would not hesitate to cause a scene. The large screen continued to announce the pairings. When it came to Du Zifeng, his partner was revealed to be not Nie Longxiang, but Qi Yingying. Even Du Zifeng, known for his steady demeanor, couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Good it wasn't that detestable Nie Longxiang. The top-ranked designer Chu Sha was assigned Nie Longxiang. Like the Joker in a deck of cards, he was the last to be revealed both in this round and the previous one. The live streaming comments poured down like rain, the audience deeply invested in this pairing. My Chu is paired with that Nye Longxiang. I call foul, it's rigged. Haha, the tables have turned. I thought it would be Nye and Do again. Did you see the faces of the designers during the selection? They were like startled birds, hilarious. Same here, haha. And that one who cheered. So funny. Grinning emoji. They clearly didn't want to be stuck with Nye. Facepalm emoji. Dog emoji, who can blame them? That master Nye is something else, haha. Right, it's rigged. My Sha, why did she get Nye? It must be a conspiracy. Crying emoji. I'm new here. How good is this Du Zifeng? Why is he paired with my Ying? His skill? He's only good enough to be paired with someone like Nye, and he's done it twice. Smirk emoji. So how strong is this Nye Longxiang compared to my Ying? No comparison, no comparison. Master Nye is in a league of his own. Haha, don't listen to them. Nye is terrible. Du Zifeng is the real deal. Oh, I see. So that's how it is. Amidst the heated audience discussion, the host once again directed everyone's attention to the large screen. The keyword for the next round was about to be announced. Cannon combat. The two words slowly materialized on the screen. As a crucial output weapon for Mecha, the cannon was an essential piece of equipment. With cannon combat as the theme, just like the previous round, the only permitted attack method was the Mecha's cannon. The moment the words cannon combat appeared, an idea immediately flashed through Du Zifeng's mind. Perhaps it would be perfect for this themed competition. Soon the second round of the all-frequency Mecha design competition officially came to an end. After the host concluded the live broadcast, Du Zifeng began to walk back. Unlike the other designers who sought to engage in conversation, Du Zifeng had no desire to interact with anyone. His mind was consumed by an idea that was begging to be realized. He yearned to return to his workshop immediately to construct the Mecha, but at that moment a beautiful figure suddenly blocked his path. Hey, wait for me, designer Du. Du Zifeng focused his gaze and recognized who had stopped him. Qi Yingying. He had quite a few impressions of Qi Yingying. Of course, these were the impressions left by the body before he arrived in this world. She was an exceptionally skilled mecha pilot. Her abilities were formidable, having achieved the rare rank of a first-class mecha pilot. Although there was still a considerable gap between her and the top-tier master-level mecha pilots, for a female pilot to reach the level of a first-class pilot was already an extraordinary feat. Qi Yingying's beautiful features coupled with her outstanding piloting skills quickly made her the #1 idol in the hearts of countless mecha fans. After all, mecha piloting had long been a male-dominated domain. The sudden emergence of such a highly skilled and beautiful woman was a rarity. Regardless of personal feelings towards her, Qi Yingying's appearance undeniably injected fresh vitality into the somewhat stagnant field of mecha. Looking forward to our cooperation. Qi Yingying extended her hand with a smile. Seeing this, Du Zifeng had no choice but to smile back and take her hand. Looking forward to it. Without further conversation, Du Zifeng floated out of the gravity zone, grabbed a ceiling rail, and pulled himself towards his workshop. Qi Yingying followed closely behind him. As his assigned partner pilot, coordinating with the mecha designer was part of her duties. Du Zifeng's mind was racing. In a cannon battle, the power of the cannon depended entirely on the mecha's strength. In this world, cannons could be kinetic or even light, electric, magnetic, nuclear, thermal, wind, fire, chemical, or biological. Any form of potential energy that could cause destruction. Soon Du Zifeng returned to his familiar workshop. The several light mechas on display still stood in their places. Du Zifeng glanced at the mechas. The cold metallic texture they exuded brought him an extraordinary sense of peace. This was something he, having lived 2 lives, still could not bear to let go. Du Zifeng shook his head, clearing his thoughts. He still had work to do. He sat down at the design terminal, a familiar routine. He began to translate the ideas brewing in his mind into reality through the terminal, his fingers flying across the keyboard. This time Du Zifeng was going to design a cannon. Yes, a cannon. More precisely, a mecha that was a cannon. A cannon-type mecha of pure simplicity. This mecha would not be humanoid, nor would it be a geometric shape like the Iron Ball or Iron Blade. It would be just a cannon-type mecha. In his past life, when Du Zifeng first saw this outrageously absurd design, he was deeply amazed by the designer's audacious imagination. This mecha completely abandoned the inherent advantages of a standard mecha: armor, transmission systems, maneuverability. All the representative features of a mecha were discarded. It retained only one characteristic: its terrifying firepower. All the mecha's mechanical structures were built around this single focus. The firepower loadout was divided into 3 types based on range: long, medium, and short. To balance the center of gravity during firing, the base of the mecha was equipped with extremely heavy materials. This was to prevent the immense recoil from destroying the mecha's posture. After calibrating the data with the editing simulator, Du Zifeng smoothly constructed a prototype of this mecha on the design terminal. After all, calling this creation a mecha was a misnomer. It was more accurate to call it a cannon. Qi Yingying had remained silent since entering the workshop. She had been quietly following. But seeing Du Zifeng immediately dive into the design terminal shocked her. She hadn't expected him to start working so directly. Compared to her previous partner's designers, Chu She and Fu Xinrui, Chu She was of course the top female designer in the field, and Fu Xinrui was no unknown figure. He had won numerous awards. However, their work methods were distinctly different from Du Zifeng's. Both would approach a new design with great caution. They wouldn't jump into the design process as Du Zifeng was doing now, but as Qi Yingying stood there in astonishment. The red light on Du Zifeng's design terminal suddenly turned green. Qi Yingying was utterly stunned. Was the design already complete? So fast. It couldn't be. Even Chu She couldn't design a work at such a speed. Didn't Du Zifeng need any time to think? His design speed was as if he had already obtained the schematics for the next mecha in advance. It was like he was writing down a pre-planned answer the moment a question was posed. But this was designing a mecha, not doing homework. The difficulty between the two was incomparable. Designer Du, are you finished? Qi Yingying asked weakly. Du Zifeng finally pulled his attention away from the design terminal and turned to Qi Yingying at the door. Yes, it's mostly done, he confirmed with a nod. Just a few details to polish. So fast. Faced with her persistent questioning, Du Zifeng reaffirmed his answer. Having received Du Zifeng's personal confirmation, Qi Yingying's mind was in turmoil. Was this real? It was real. She desperately wanted to go to the design terminal to see the mecha he had designed. But reason held her back. A pilot was not allowed to casually peek at a designer's blueprints. Qi Yingying carefully studied the man before her. It was the first time she had looked at anyone so intently. The speed at which Du Zifeng designed a mecha had profoundly shocked her. Forget the manpower and resources needed to design a medium mecha. Even a light mecha couldn't be designed within an hour. The knowledge involved in mecha design was vast. If even a single component had a problem, the mecha wouldn't be able to start. Or, Qi Yingying thought of another possibility, though it felt a little narcissistic. Was Du Zifeng exaggerating because he was infatuated with her looks? Was he trying to get her attention? Thinking this, Qi Yingying inexplicably blushed. Du Zifeng looked at her strangely. He wondered if there was something wrong with this woman. He had just finished designing a mecha. Why was she making such a big deal out of it? Qi Yingying noticed the increasingly strange look in Du Zifeng's eyes as he gazed at her. She quickly cleared her throat, reining in her wandering thoughts. Since you've designed the mech, can I take a look? Qi Yingying's gaze was filled with curiosity. Du Zifeng nodded and simultaneously produced a virtual contract. Sign it, and you can see. Qi Yingying scanned the contract and found no issues. The profit split was 5%. This figure was not low. She signed her name without hesitation. Meanwhile, in Du Zifeng's livestream, a torrent of comments was flooding in. Yingying, be careful not to get scammed. I love you, Yingying. Why so many blind fans? Designer Du is as fast as ever, like a 1-second man. Haha, the comment above cracks me up. Yingying's diehard fan, anyone in the know tell me. Is this designer reliable? Don't worry, Designer Du is really skilled. Really? He won't hold us back, will he? I love you, Yingying, be my wife. The guy above is dreaming. Yingying is my wife. All of you get lost. Yingying belongs to me alone. Sigh, so many idiots. Why has this place become so chaotic? I just want to see the mech. Blind fans, get out. You think you can order us around? Who do you think you are? Go, Yingying. I love you. I wonder what kind of mech Designer Du has made this time. I'm looking forward to it too. But the atmosphere here is a bit messy right now. Same here. Amidst the heated debate among netizens, Qi Yingying signed her name on the contract. She tossed the virtual contract back to Du Zifeng. He caught it, signed his own name, and uploaded the contract to the Heavenly Network. Come and take a look. Du Zifeng waved at Qi Yingying. Unable to contain her curiosity, she quickly walked over to the design terminal. Had Du Zifeng really designed the mech schematics in such a short time? She wondered what kind of mech it would be. After Qi Yingying saw the mech on the design terminal, she was utterly stunned. Is this a mech? Isn't it a cannon? She exclaimed involuntarily. Before her eyes was a heavy artillery piece, an ultra-large caliber gun that seemed to rely on kinetic energy for destruction. Faced with Qi Yingying's doubt, Du Zifeng remained unruffled. Don't rush. This is a transforming mech. Du Zifeng pressed a button on the design terminal. The heavy artillery piece began to shift its form. Amidst a dazzling series of transformations, the heavy cannon turned into a very ordinary humanoid mech. This? Qi Yingying's eyes widened dramatically. It was a transforming mech. In this world, transforming mechs did exist, but they were exceedingly rare. The reason lay in the mech's structural integrity. Transforming mechs generally had very low durability because they were too complex. Moreover, their failure rate was extremely high. The slightest mishap could prevent the mech from transforming smoothly. And once a transforming mech got stuck mid-transformation, it was no different from a pile of scrap metal. Any mech could easily defeat it while it was in the middle of changing forms. Furthermore, for designers, transforming mechs were exceedingly difficult to design, essentially a thankless task. In this world, aside from a few designers obsessed with this aspect, the vast majority of designers would never bring such a mech to the forefront. High failure rates, difficult logistics, slow transformation. Just as Qi Yingying was about to say something, Du Zifeng pressed another button. The mech before them transformed again. Another heavy cannon appeared, but judging by its design, it was not the same kinetic weapon as before. It looked more like a laser cannon. This is impossible. How did you do it? Two different types of cannons in one mech. Qi Yingying couldn't help but lean in close to the design terminal, gripping the monitor tightly with both hands. In the original world, of course, it wasn't possible. Du Zifeng silently recited this sentence in his mind. But here it was possible, because he possessed something, the edit simulator. With all these questions, why not get into the mech and try it yourself? How about it? Instead of answering directly, Du Zifeng pointed at the progress bar nearby. Mech construction progress. 89. Qi Yingying nodded without hesitation. At the same time, she pushed off with both arms. Her body floated toward the mech training pod. Designer, do I have one more question? Just as she was about to enter, she spoke up again. Is this a light mech or a medium mech? Medium mech, Du Zifeng replied calmly. Qi Yingying made an okay gesture. She sat back into the training pod. As the text on the design terminal's display showed complete, Qi Yingying's training pod also lit up. Clearly, it was already connecting to the fully constructed mech on the planet. Du Zifeng remained silent, then gently waved his hand. A virtual screen appeared before him. After adjusting a few values, a mech was displayed on the virtual screen. This was the mech he had designed. Du Zifeng named it No.7 Battery, the name of a designer from Earth. The name No.7 Battery was rather meaningless in this world, but Du Zifeng insisted on keeping it, because the inspiration for this mech came from its original designer. Although No.7 batteries no longer existed in this world, Du Zifeng wanted to do this anyway. At that moment, an image appeared on the screen. A heavy cannon slowly rose from the Earth's crust. Accompanied by the roar of the engine, the heavy cannon glowed with blue light. Along the long, thick barrel, a blue radiance extended from the base to the tip. As energy charged, the blue light gradually turned green, then yellow, and finally red. Boom! A thunderous roar that seemed to shake heaven and earth erupted from the ground. Even watching through the screen, Du Zifeng could clearly feel the immense power. The powerful recoil from the blast pushed the entire cannon back 20 centimeters, leaving several deep scratches on its base. Then Qi Yingying fired several more times in quick succession. The No.7 battery didn't budge an inch, having successfully locked its position. Du Zifeng truly understood what it meant to have an exceptional mech pilot. Unlike a novice like Nia Longshan, Qi Yingying didn't need to seek help from him, the designer. She could master an unfamiliar mech through independent exploration alone. Du Zifeng carefully observed the impact points of the No.7 batteries, several shots. The targets ranged from far to near. Except for the first shot, which was slightly off, every single one hit the mark without fail. This is the true skill a mech pilot should possess. Du Zifeng murmured to himself with some emotion.